Chapter 7:12. In Su Yi's eyes, the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom had many shortcomings that affected the investment environment. However, if he were to pick out the most important one, it would be the transportation problem. Not to mention the Lampari Kingdom that had roads that connected all the cities and towns, or the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Drake Duchy, and other neighboring countries of the Lampari Kingdom. The Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom's transportation environment couldn't even compare to the other countries on the signs. The reason was that the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom was located in the southeast corner of the continent. The climate was hot and humid all year round, the forest was lush, and there was plenty of rain. This caused the soil in the kingdom to be soft and wet, which wasn't good for transportation. Although the Huaiwe Chamber of Commerce and the other 13 chambers of commerce had used their powerful financial resources to build more than 10 roads paved with hard stones, these roads weren't in good condition to begin with. Due to the climate, it was difficult to maintain them, so the road conditions had never been good. Moreover, in Su Yi's eyes, the 13 roads that were less than 200 kilometers long and less than 5 meters wide couldn't take on the responsibility of ensuring a smooth traffic flow. Therefore, the first thing he asked Gaza was that he hoped the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom could solve this problem. Gaza wasn't surprised by Su Yi's question, but he felt helpless. The reason why he took the initiative to find manager Riley was because he hoped to contact the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and invite the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to build roads in the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom. Gaza had gone to the Mirando Duchy for business last year. After personally experiencing the convenience of the roads in the Mirando Duchy, he was immediately moved by this novel matter. If the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom could build such smooth roads, it meant that they wouldn't have to worry about transportation anymore. As a qualified merchant, Gaza knew better than anyone the importance of transportation for a chamber of commerce. So when he found Manager Riley, he proposed such a crazy plan to Manager Riley, but not surprisingly, Manager Riley rejected it. What a joke! Building a road across the entire continent from the east to the west? How could this be something that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom could solve? Not to mention that there was still the huge Kanla Empire in between. Just the most basic problem of capital investment was simply impossible to solve. Gaza then settled for the next best thing, hoping that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce could enter the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom to lay down roads and help solve the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom's transportation problems. However, after some consideration, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce also rejected this proposal. In the end, the main business of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was concentrated in the Lampari Kingdom, which was more than 5,000 kilometers away from the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom. This distance, with the current level of technology on the Signs continent, it was already a distance that couldn't be reached. Even if the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce could transport their people and magic machines into the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom, it would be hard to transport the most important materials for paving road. A distance of over 5,000 kilometers would raise the cost of transporting any material to a level that people couldn't accept at all. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had analyzed the large cost of doing this to Gaza, and Gaza had no choice but to agree that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's concerns were correct. But now that Su Yi had finally come to the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom, the first problem he raised was the transportation problem. This made Gaza very helpless. To solve the transportation problem, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce wasn't willing to come. To attract new flyer to invest, it would be best if the 13 companies could also enter the magic machine industry. Su Yi had very strict requirements for transportation here. This was a dead end. Rather, Su Yi's expression was very relaxed after he expressed his concern about the transportation problem. After looking at Gaza with a smile for a while, Su Yi suddenly said, "Chairman Gaza, actually it isn't hard to solve this problem. As long as you can build a suitable deep water port, it's fine." Gaza was stunned. Deep water port? How is that related? Of course. Sui revealed a faint smile. Gaza revealed a faint smile. If there isn't a suitable deep water port, how can our company's large transport ships transport enough materials? Gaza was stunned before his eyes froze. Chairman Su, you're saying your new flyer is really willing to invest? Yes, I'm very interested in investing here, otherwise do you think I would come all the way here? Sui asked back with a smile. Gaza couldn't help nodding. Yes, to come here from the Principality of Constantine, where the Xinfei Chamber of Commerce was located, it was a straight line of over 5,000 kilometers. Even if Sui came here on the magic airship this time, reducing the travel time by quite a bit, it still wasn't a distance that could be easily reached. For Sui to personally come here, it already showed his sincerity and determination. Before coming here, I've talked to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Cruz. Sui continued. I can understand the worries of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. After all, there are many disadvantages in laying down roads thousands of kilometers away. But after discussing this with Chairman Cruz, we've come up with a plan that everyone can accept. Hearing the meaning in Sui's words, Gaza's voice couldn't help trembling as he asked with an expectant look, May I ask what kind of plan it is? Chairman Gaza, like I said earlier, the thing I'm most dissatisfied with is the transportation problem. So if you want to invest here, you have to solve this most important problem first. I've already discussed this with Chairman Cruz. Our new flyer will first build several factories here that will produce the materials needed to pave the road. It will make it easier to produce the materials needed to pave the roads, which will save us a lot of time and cost. Gaza thought for a bit before understanding Sui's plan and revealing a look of praise. Chairman Su, this is the most perfect plan. I'm very happy that you're willing to consider this for our kingdom. Sui revealed a smile. I've said it before, I don't like wasting time and energy. Since I'm already here, I have to take care of this matter. Because of the large amount of materials and workers needed in the initial stages, as well as the fact that we have to pass through several countries on land and the Kanla Empire, it's very inconvenient. So I've decided to take the more convenient sea route, transporting the materials and workers from the sea. Sea route? Gaza thought for a bit before his expression changed. Chairman Su, you should be talking about your company's 3 giant steel ships, the Morning Sun? They can sail 5,000 kilometers on the sea and come here from the Principality of Constantine? Sui revealed a faint smile. Chairman Gaza, this isn't a problem you need to worry about. I only have one request for you right now, which is to build a suitable harbor for the large transport magic ships like the Morning Sun as soon as possible. Can you do this? Gaza couldn't help giving a soft snort. Chairman Su, perhaps we can't compare to your new flyer in terms of magic machines, but in other aspects, this isn't a problem at all. It's just a harbor, even if we don't go through the kingdom's conference. Just our Huaiwe Chamber of Commerce is enough to take care of it. All right. Sui nodded. Sui nodded. The day this harbor is built will be the first day of our cooperation. Gaza nodded with a serious expression. It wasn't hard for the Huaiwe Chamber of Commerce to build a harbor, but he still had a bit of doubt towards the beautiful plan Sui described. Not mentioning anything else, just the large amount of people and goods transported by sea from the distant Principality of Constantine made him feel that it was a bit unreliable. The endless seas were filled with endless dangers. Even if the new flyer successfully transported goods from the Principality of Constantine to the Kingdom of Ruhr, that was only 2,000 kilometers. From the Principality of Constantine to here, it was over 5,000 kilometers. Even if the distance on the sea was shorter than on land, it would still be over 6,000 kilometers. With such a terrifying distance, it was just too hard to guarantee that there wouldn't be any accidents along the way. However, seeing the confident smile on Sui's face, how could Gaza say such discouraging words? Anyway, they only needed to invest in building a large harbor, at most investing a few 100,000 gold coins. The most difficult thing was that the new flyer had to solve it themselves. Thinking of this, Gaza was a bit curious. Even if he was looking forward to this, he knew that the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom was too far from the Principality of Constantine. Adding in the normal environment, it shouldn't have attracted the new flyer that much. But not only did Su-Yi agree to his invitation, he even personally came to pull him over. Now he was even announcing a very large plan to him. No matter how one looked at it, the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom shouldn't have this much attraction. Chairman Gaza, now that we've finished discussing the preliminary plan, let's discuss the specifics of our cooperation. Su-Yi continued. Our company's large transport magic ships have come all the way here, so it's impossible for us to return empty-handed. Bringing back some things from here is the attitude that we merchants should have. Don't you think so? Seeing Su-Yi's smiling eyes, Gaza quickly suppressed the chaotic thoughts in his heart. Because he was very clear that Su-Yi was finally talking about the most important issue. Su-Yi wasn't a philanthropist, and the new flyer wouldn't come here to help the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom for no reason. As a qualified merchant, obtaining the benefits they needed from the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom was the most normal thing to do. Only Gaza didn't know that the things Su-Yi needed were things that the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom couldn't afford. Chapter 713. Facts proved that Gaza was thinking too much. The things that Su-Yi hoped to obtain from the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom were not only things that they could afford, it even made Chairman Gaza feel that it was too simple, to the point that he doubted if he had heard wrong. This was because Su-Yi only hoped to obtain some minerals and magic materials that the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce needed from the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom. The ores and magic materials that Su-Yi mentioned were all very normal things. Although they weren't as common as magic crystals and weren't worth anything, they weren't considered rare resources in the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom, so they could be traded. Through the trade of these resources, Su-Yi promised Gaza that he could provide the Huaiwe Chamber of Commerce with some household magic machine manufacturing techniques, allowing them to grasp the method of manufacturing household magic machines. In order to ensure that the new flyer could smoothly take root in the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom 5,000 kilometers away, other than building a cement processing plant, they would also invest in a small steel mill to ensure that the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom could establish a magic machine industry. Also, because the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom was limited by geography, there was very little land that could be used for farming, so the food problem had always been a big problem for them. Su-Yi agreed to propose to Gaza that they could ship large amounts of food from the Principality of Constantine to help them solve this most important problem. Before this, the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom basically imported food from the nearby Kanla Empire to solve their most basic need. But the Kanla Empire set a very high price for food. Take wheat as an example. The lowest price was 34 gold coins per ton and the highest price was 38 gold coins per ton. Although the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom earned a lot of money through the alliance of 13 chambers of commerce through other business channels and the special resources that the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom was rich in, such as rare trees, flowers, and plants that were native to the swamp. However, just the cost of food imports alone reached 1.37 million gold coins last year, accounting for more than a quarter of the kingdom's total support. And according to the initial agreement between Su-Yi and Gaza, the food that New Flyer shipped from the Principality of Constantine was priced a bit lower than the food from the Kanla Empire. Taking wheat as an example, the price that New Flyer gave was a mere 28 gold coins per ton, which was 6 gold coins lower than the price from the Kanla Empire. Adding in the fact that the price of other food was also lower, if the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom changed to importing food from New Flyer, they could save at least 300,000 gold coins per year. Gaza didn't even think about it and immediately agreed to cooperate with Sui. But he was puzzled. New Flyer shipped food from the Principality of Constantine, which was more than 5,000 kilometers away, but the price was much lower than the neighboring Kanla Empire. If the transportation fee was included, wouldn't that be a huge loss? However, Sui didn't explain the reason to Gaza. He only assured Gaza that the food that New Flyer shipped over wouldn't have any problems and would definitely be able to withstand the various tests of the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom. Gaza was a bit doubtful, but he didn't say anything. After all, the food cooperation was only an unimportant part of the cooperation between the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom and New Flyer. If the food that New Flyer shipped over didn't have any problems, then the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom could save a lot of money, which was a good thing. Besides, New Flyer didn't have to lie to him about this. It wouldn't benefit anyone. Gaza believed that Sui definitely wouldn't do such a brainless thing. Sui and Gaza's meeting this time could only be considered a very preliminary contact. For Gaza, or rather for the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom, there was only one urgent problem, which was to build a deep-water harbor as soon as possible. Otherwise, New Flyer's large transport magic boats wouldn't be able to dock, so it would be hard for New Flyer to contact the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom. Naturally, they wouldn't be able to cooperate in the future. As for building a road from the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom to the Kingdom of Ruhr, connecting it to the Kingdom of Ruhr's road network, connecting it to the Principality of Constantine, this idea couldn't be realized at least for now, so naturally it could only be put aside for now. After this meeting, Sui was invited by Gaza to inspect the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom for a week. The Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom was only a bit bigger than the Principality of Constantine. It couldn't compare to the Lampari Kingdom or the Kingdom of Ruhr. It was a small country in the southeast corner of the Signs, so it was much easier to inspect it. This was Sui's first time here, so he didn't inspect it in depth. He just sat in the magic airship for a week and went around the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom, gaining a basic understanding of the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom. After this inspection, Sui's evaluation of the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom in his heart had increased a bit. This increase didn't come from the geographical environment of the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom. Rather, after personally coming here and seeing the swamps and rainforests that could be seen all over the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom, Sui's evaluation of this became even lower. The reason why his evaluation of the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom had increased was because of the 13 companies that controlled the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom represented by the Huayue Chamber of Commerce. Although these 13 companies controlled the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom, they were closer to merchants in the end. This made it easier for Sui to communicate with them, and it wasn't as hard as communicating with the nobles and ministers of the Lampari Kingdom or the Kingdom of Ruhr. Both sides were very pragmatic when discussing cooperation, not wasting words at all and being very efficient. In just a week, they had decided on many details of the cooperation. Moreover, in just a few days, the Huayue Chamber of Commerce had worked with 3 other companies to decide on the location of a deep-water harbor. At the same time, they had prepared the initial construction materials and manpower. This kind of efficiency even made Sui sigh in amazement. Of course, because the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom didn't have cement, concrete, steel bars, or other materials, they didn't have the construction technology of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, so they could only build a traditional harbor on the Signs. They couldn't build a firm harbor like the New Flyers harbor on the Principality of Constantine and the Black Rice Wasteland. Sui didn't care that much about this. It was enough as long as the New Flyers' large transport magic ship could dock there. As for the matters after that, he could slowly consider it. A week quickly passed and Sui finally finished his short-term inspection of the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom. When the magic airship carrying Sui and the Shinfei merchants slowly rose into the air, quickly turning the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom representatives below into little black dots on the ground. Evita beside Su-Yi suddenly knit her brows. She looked at Su-Yi and hesitated to speak. What? Just say it if you have something to say. What are you holding it in for? Su-Yi said with a smile. Evita was silent for a bit before saying in a soft voice, Sir Chairman, actually I've always been curious. Why do you have to cooperate with the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom? This place is just too far away from our merchants. Even with the magic airship, it would take several days for a round trip. If we use the large transport magic ship, it would take at least a month for a round trip. I feel that this isn't a suitable distance for cooperation, it's too inconvenient. I also feel that it's too far, it is indeed very inconvenient. Su-Yi nodded. Evita was stunned. Then why are you? Su-Yi spread his hands. Because I want to open more markets. Don't you think that if our company only focuses on the surrounding small countries, our prospects won't be good? Evita knit her brows even deeper. But if it's to open more markets, I feel that the Canla Empire is a better choice. Moreover, didn't you already have this plan? Why are you giving up now? Who says I'm giving up? Su-Yi asked back. Considering investing in the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom and opening up the Canla Empire's market aren't contradictory, they can be done at the same time. But you had the guard fleet attack the Canla Empire's fleet last time, wouldn't this completely offend the Canla Empire? Su-Yi gave a shrug. It's nothing, this is just sending a signal to the Canla Empire. Signal? Evita had a confused look. What signal? Su-Yi smiled and didn't reply. What signal? Of course it was to tell the Canla Empire, look, your fleet is already falling behind, it can't take a single blow from our new flyer's newly developed magic battleships. If the Canla Empire was smart enough, of course they would be able to smell the message Su-Yi wanted to send from this small conflict. Then, it was obvious what they should and would do next. Su-Yi looked northwest in the direction of the Canla Empire through the magic airship's window with a trace of expectation in his heart. This giant and ancient empire should give him a response that he was satisfied with. Chapter 7:14. Su-Yi had guessed all kinds of reactions from the Canla Empire. He was even prepared for the Canla Empire being offended by their dignity as one of the two empires of the signs, so they would be angry and ban the new flyer. But the Canla Empire's reaction to this matter was something that he didn't expect. The Canla Empire's reaction was no reaction at all. Yes, Su-Yi had taken the magic airship from the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom back to the Principality of Constantine. Because he had stopped at Thunderbolt Island and stopped at the Mirando Duchy, the entire trip had taken half a month. But when he returned to the Principality of Constantine, he didn't receive any reaction from the Canla Empire to the conflict between the new flyer's guard fleet and the Canla Empire's third fleet. Even if he patiently waited for half a month, the Canla Empire still didn't release any information about this matter. It was like this matter hadn't happened at all. Su-Yi was very curious about this. The Canla Empire was one of the two empires of the signs, so it was an unreachable giant in the eyes of the people of the signs. Now that the new flyer's guard fleet had provoked them like this, they actually didn't react at all? Could it be that the Canla Empire's navy had admitted defeat this time? Su-Yi didn't believe that the Canla Empire would swallow this insult, so there had to be some other reason behind the Canla Empire's reaction. But this wasn't a problem that bothered Su-Yi. He just needed to attract the attention of the Canla Empire. He didn't plan on doing anything else. In the end, now wasn't the best time. Opening the Canla Empire's market was imperative, but at the same time, the new flyer's foundation in the surrounding countries needed to be strengthened. ####. In August, whether it was the Principality of Constantine, the Lampari Kingdom, the Kingdom of Ruhr and the surrounding small countries, all of them entered the hottest period of the year. At noon, even if one was just walking on the streets, one would be covered in sweat after being exposed to the sun for a while. So at this time, most people would be hiding at home, enjoying the cool breeze from the magic fan or the magic air conditioner. They would take a comfortable afternoon nap and wouldn't go out if they could. However, at noon today, as the most respected city lord of Banta City, Count Will, he had to stand under the most scorching sun, enduring the heat of his body as he focused on the construction site in front of him. Seeing a group of workers under the command of two magic mechanical engineers wearing the new flyer uniform, placing the large magic water pump that Banta City had spent 1,300 gold coins to buy from the new flyer beside the reservoir, Count Will gave a slight nod before looking at the new flyer's Vice Chairman Hines beside him. "Hey, Vice Chairman Hines, with this speed, the people of our Banta City should be able to use tap water this year, right?" Hines nodded with a faint smile. "Yes, Lord City Lord. If nothing unexpected happens, as long as you keep this project going, I think that before the first snow comes, the people of Banta City will be able to use clean tap water." "Very good." Count Will gave a nod of praise. "If this automatic water system can be completed, it will greatly increase the living standards of our Banta City's people. Not mentioning anything else, at least during the coldest time of winter, people won't need to work hard to get water from wells, and they won't need to walk that far to get water from the Sandy River. Yes, the automatic water system can solve the problems of water for people. Moreover, the water from the automatic water system will be purified by the magic of the elves, so the water will be very clean. It will be much better than drinking water from wells or the Sandy River." Hines continued, "After we popularized the automatic water system in the Principality of Constantine, the morbidity of the citizens of the Principality of Constantine has greatly decreased. With the emergency medical system that we popularized in the Principality of Constantine, the morbidity of the citizens of the Principality of Constantine has greatly decreased." Count Will gave a slow nod before suddenly looking at Hines and saying in an emotional voice, "If your new flyer hadn't left Banta City back then, it would have been good. I think that the first ones to enjoy these benefits would be the citizens of our Banta City." Hines revealed a smile and didn't say anything. The reason why the new flyer left Banta City back then was because they were forced by the Stag family. They had no choice but to leave Banta City and even the entire Lampari Kingdom. But if one looked at the deeper reason, it was because Su-Yi already had this plan and took this chance to leave the Lampari Kingdom. In the depths of Su-Yi's heart, he wasn't willing to see the development of the new flyer be hindered, especially hindrances that weren't related to business like the Stag family. Leaving the Lampari Kingdom caused quite a bit of loss for the new flyer, but now that they were in the Principality of Constantine, because the new flyer could control the Principality of Constantine from behind the scenes, the new flyer could follow Su-Yi's plans most of the time and didn't need to worry about any obstacles. Count Levi's words clearly implied that he wanted the new flyer to return to the Lampari Kingdom, but Hines knew that Su-Yi definitely wouldn't agree to this. Seeing Hines's expression, Count Will let out a soft sigh and didn't continue to dwell on this issue. After a short pause, he continued to ask Hines about the automatic water supply system. Banta City's water system from the new flyer was improving the drinking water environment of Banta City. Whether it was for Banta City or for the entire Lampari Kingdom, this was a very important attempt. It attracted the attention of almost everyone in the Lampari Kingdom. Most people in the Lampari Kingdom had only heard about the water system that the new flyer had installed in the Principality of Constantine, but there were few people who had actually experienced it. After Count Levi personally went to the Principality of Constantine to investigate, he came back and made a report to the Lampari Kingdom's parliament, quickly receiving the approval of the parliament. The new flyer had taken the initiative to push this matter, so naturally they were very active and efficient. In just half a month, they had already finished most of the first water tower project in Banta City. Now that the large magic water pump was finished, according to the data from the new flyer, it would be enough for 5,000 people to use at the same time. Of course, this was only the first phase. According to the agreement between the new flyer and Banta City, in order to complete the water system for Banta City, the new flyer would build a dam to the northwest of Banta City, upstream of the Sandy River. It would create a reservoir that would be used to attack Banta City's water system. Then the water system would be built in the later stages, and there would be at least 20 water towers outside Banta City. Not only was it to provide water for the daily lives of the citizens of Banta City, it would also spread to the small towns and villages outside Banta City in the future, allowing all the citizens of Banta City to enjoy the convenience of the automatic water supply. Other than that, with Su Yi's suggestion, Count Levi was planning to redesign the entire Banta City's drainage system. He wanted to achieve what Su Yi said, where they couldn't see a single bit of dirty water. This was a project that was even bigger than the water system. According to the estimates of the staff of the City Lord Manor, it would take Banta City at least 5 years to solve this problem. As for the total investment of these two projects, it was estimated to be at least 3 million gold coins. If it was the previous Banta City, naturally they wouldn't be able to take this large investment, but for the current Banta City, this wasn't a financial burden that they couldn't take. According to the statistics of the City Lord Manor last year, Banta City had earned a large tax income of over 3 million gold coins last year. Even if they didn't pay the kingdom's treasury and took out their daily expenses, they still had a surplus of 1,200,000 gold coins. With such ample finances, it was no wonder Count Levi had the confidence to complete these two large projects that required large amounts of investment. For Count Levi, if these two projects could be completed, it would be a very important achievement for him. It would help him take an important step towards becoming one of the highest-level people in the kingdom. For the entire Lampari Kingdom, Banta City was a very good test subject. If these two projects had good results in Banta City, Her Majesty Seveni had personally told Count Levi that she would spread these measures throughout the kingdom. Last year, the Lampari Kingdom's annual revenue had reached a shocking 7 million gold coins, which gave Her Majesty Seveni enough confidence. Because they needed large amounts of different steel pipes for the water system and the water pipes, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce worked with the Ireland Chamber of Commerce. With the approval of Banta City's City Lord Manor, they built a steel pipe processing factory outside Banta City that specialized in providing steel pipe. According to their agreement, Banta City would buy steel pipes from the steel pipe processing factory from the market, but they would receive a certain discount. In this project, the Ireland Chamber of Commerce had unexpectedly taken the core position. This was because the Ireland Chamber of Commerce was very strong in researching and manufacturing steel pipes. They weren't even inferior to New Flyer. Thinking of when they discussed this project, it was because the Ireland Chamber of Commerce had steel pipe technology that wasn't inferior to New Flyer that his attitude towards New Flyer was a bit tough. Count Levi couldn't help taking another look at Heinz. The appearance and growth of the Ireland Chamber of Commerce couldn't do without the support of New Flyer. When Su Yi made this decision back then, did he think that because of this one day, New Flyer wouldn't be able to obtain more benefits from Banta City? Chapter 7:15. Count Levi was overthinking things. In his opinion, the Ireland Chamber of Commerce that the New Flyer had personally nurtured had given him a competitor that could compete with him in certain aspects. This caused the New Flyer to lose a large amount of profits, which was no different from asking for trouble. But in Su Yi's opinion, it was the complete opposite. "Hey, Freeman, this really makes me sigh in admiration." Su Yi turned over a steel pipe that was about as thick as his wrist, carefully examining it from the outside to the inside several times. He even took a vernier caliper from Freeman's hand to measure the steel pipe, his face full of praise. The craftsmanship of this P2 model steel pipe can be said to have reached or even surpassed the standards of our Chamber of Commerce's steel pipe processing workshop. Freeman, can you tell me how you did it? Freeman gave a simple and honest laugh, scratching his head as he replied, "It's nothing much, we just kept raising our requirements." Sui nodded, well said. The so-called craftsmanship was actually the process of constantly increasing one's own requirements to improve. From this P2 model steel pipe, I can see that your Ireland Chamber of Commerce's ability in this type of steel pipe is not inferior to our Chamber of Commerce's. Speaking up to here, Sui couldn't help but sigh in admiration. He forcefully patted Freeman's shoulder and loudly laughed. "Do you know, this is something that I've been looking forward to all these years, but I didn't think that your Ireland Chamber of Commerce would be the first to achieve it." No, Chairman Sue, you're too kind." Freeman repeatedly waved his hand. Freeman had interacted with Sui many times, and had also had many in-depth discussions with Sui. He was very clear on Sui's wish, which was that the magic machine industry couldn't be dominated by the New Flyer alone. It would be best if there were other magic machine industry companies that were close to the New Flyer, or even better than the New Flyer. Freeman was very confused by Sui's idea because there had never been a company or a merchant that hoped that their competitor would become stronger or even surpass them. But Freeman was very clear that this was Sui's heartfelt words. If it wasn't like this, he definitely wouldn't have taken the initiative to sell the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's magic machine technology. He could have monopolized it completely, so he would have earned several times more profit than now. Their Ireland Chamber of Commerce being able to have such high achievements in steel pipe casting technology couldn't do without the support of New Flyer. Even in the current Ireland Chamber of Commerce, with Sui's permission, they had rented 2 dwarven magic machine engineers from New Flyer, who were in charge of the steel pipe casting technology. The current Ireland Chamber of Commerce's achievements couldn't do without the support of these 2 dwarven magic machine engineers. Of course it also couldn't do without the support of New Flyer. So Count Will felt that the Ireland Chamber of Commerce had stolen the market from New Flyer with their own strength, causing New Flyer to lose large amounts of profit. But Freeman was very clear that this was all done by Sui on purpose. So Freeman maintained a humble attitude in front of Sui. He always felt that everything he had now was because of Sui. Otherwise, he would still be a normal farmer in a village outside Banta City, worrying about his family's livelihood every day. "Chairman Sue." Freeman hesitated a bit before suddenly speaking. "How about I talk to the Lord City Lord? This steel pipe processing factory should be led by your New Flyer. Our Ireland Chamber of Commerce might not have any problems with the technology, but we are much worse than your New Flyer in other aspects. If your company is in charge, we are willing to do our best to help you." Seeing the complicated look on Freeman's face, Sui revealed a faint smile. He shook his head and patted Freeman's shoulder again. "Don't think that much, Freeman. This matter has already been decided, it can't be changed. Count Will trusts you and your Ireland Chamber of Commerce very much, so he is filled with expectations. Even Her Majesty is paying attention to this matter. If your company can perform well this time, I believe that I can help your company become a first-class company as soon as possible. But there are no buts." Sui waved his hand and cut Freeman off. "Freeman, you should know what I'm thinking. I'm very happy that your Ireland Chamber of Commerce is qualified to lead this factory. And I'm very happy. Count Will and Her Majesty 70 are also looking forward to your performance, so this time, whether you want to take this responsibility or not, you can't throw it away. Do you understand what I mean?" Freeman was silent for a bit before slowly nodding. "I understand. But, Chairman Sue, if there are any problems with our production in the future, I ask you to help us like before." Sui revealed a mouthful of white teeth, revealing a smile that made Freeman feel assured. The two discussed the details of the various steel pipes for a bit before Freeman's expression suddenly changed. Chairman Su, I heard you mention Her Majesty, so I have a question that I don't know if I should ask or not. What is it? Is it related to Her Majesty? Sui asked back. Chairman Su, have you seen Her Majesty in the past few months? No. Sui shook his head. Looking up to think, he found that he hadn't seen Seveni in half a year. In this half a year, Seveni had only communicated with him a few times through letters and document. When Sui thought of this, he suddenly felt a bit disappointed and sighed. After Seveni took the throne, it was different from before. The friendship between the two of them would become weaker and weaker. They would be no different from normal people sooner or later. Suyi's only hope was that the two of them could peacefully get along and not become enemies in the end. But for this only hope, Sui didn't have that much confidence. You haven't seen him in months? Freeman frowned. Freeman knit his brows. I thought that I could obtain some information about Her Majesty from you. Sui was a bit confused. What information do you want to know about Her Majesty? Isn't Her Majesty's whereabouts reported in the newspapers every day? With the development of the Lampari Kingdom's economy, there were more and more newspapers in the cities. Fairy, the Lampari Kingdom's newspaper industry was already very developed. Just in Banta City, there wasn't just a single Banta Times newspaper, there were also 4 other small newspapers. In the capital of the Lampari Kingdom, in Anvilmar City, other than Baron Hannes Lampari Weekly and the Anvilmar Times, there were already over 30 newspapers of different sizes. With so many newspapers being established at the same time, naturally Anvilmar City was filled with all kinds of news. For someone like Her Majesty Seveni, who was the last person that people paid attention to, she would appear in the newspapers every day. But while some newspapers reported on Her Majesty's government affairs, there were some small newspapers that reported on other things. For example, what kind of clothes Her Majesty was wearing today, what kind of perfume she used, or if there was a new made by Her Majesty's side. They didn't even let go of anything Her Majesty ate today in this situation. If anyone wanted to know anything about Her Majesty, they just needed to look through the newspapers. Why would Freeman specially come to ask Sui? An extremely strange expression appeared on Freeman's face. The problem is, it's already been more than a month, but the newspapers haven't seen any detailed information about Her Majesty the Queen. They only report on some of Her Majesty the Queen's participation in government affairs, but there isn't any other information about Her Majesty the Queen. Sui couldn't help smiling. Hey, Freeman, I never thought that you would be such a gossipy person. Then again, it's fine if you gossip about others, but why do you want to gossip about Her Majesty? Freeman shook his head. I just feel it's strange. In the past, there were many newspapers that reported on Her Majesty's life. It's said that Her Majesty allowed them to leak this information, saying that it would allow Her Majesty to be closer to us normal citizens. But in the past month, there hasn't been any private information about Her Majesty. Not only do I feel it strange, almost everyone feels it strange. Is that so? Sui slightly knit his brows, thinking that this situation was indeed a bit strange. Revealing some small gossip about her life to let the citizens feel closer to her was something that Sui had proposed to Seveni before. Now that there wasn't any information about this in a month, naturally it would be strange. After thinking for a while, Sui still couldn't find a single clue. There was no other way. He didn't see Seveni at all during this time, and they rarely contacted each other. There was only a single letter they exchanged private greetings with. The others didn't know what happened to Seveni, and he also didn't know. Seeing that Sui really didn't know anything, Freeman hesitated a bit before looking around. He suddenly came to Suyi's side and said in a low voice, Chairman Su, there are several newspapers in the kingdom that have speculated from their own sources. Her Majesty, she should be pregnant. What? Sui looked at Freeman with wide eyes as his face filled with shock. Seveni, she was actually pregnant? How was this possible? No. This must be fake. Chapter 7:16. When Sue left the Ireland Chamber of Commerce's steel pipe factory, he had already calmed down. However, there were countless questions in his mind right now. He had known Freeman for quite a while and knew that he was very cautious, so he definitely wouldn't speak carelessly. Although Freeman had said that he had obtained this information from a few small tabloids, since Freeman had said this, it was clear that he approved of this information and had a certain degree of credibility. If this news was a rumor, then naturally it was fine. But if it was true, Sue-Yi's expression became incomparably complicated and strange. This matter, wasn't it too ridiculous? Seveni had always been single. The Lampari kingdom had all kinds of guesses about Seveni's marriage, and there were many people who hoped that Her Majesty would confirm her marriage as soon as possible. It would be best if she could give birth to a child, confirming the next successor of the Lampari kingdom. Because before Seveni took the throne, the Lampari kingdom had experienced 2 upheavals, so no one in the kingdom wanted to see another problem with the succession of the throne. Even if King Eric left behind a son, it was clear that he couldn't inherit the throne. So the most suitable candidate was naturally Her Majesty Seveni's own child. If Seveni decided to get married and publicly announced that she had chosen a man to marry, perhaps the entire Lampari kingdom would be filled with joy. But now that Seveni hadn't confirmed her marriage, and there was news of her pregnancy, it was hard to predict the reaction of the Lampari kingdom. Even if the atmosphere of the Signs continent was rather open, the noble circle was even more chaotic. But on the surface, everyone would try their best to follow tradition and try not to break it. Nobles could have messy private lives before marriage, but this didn't apply to the royal family. As the leading family of a country, the royal family had great power, but they also had great restrictions. Even if Seveni was still a princess, it was very troublesome to have a scandal. Not to mention that she was now the queen, the most powerful person in the Lampari kingdom. Now that there was news of her being pregnant before marriage, this was simply explosive. Sue could imagine that once this news was confirmed, the entire Lampari kingdom and even the surrounding countries would be shocked. The question that countless people cared about the most was the second question in Sue-Yi's mind. If Seveni was really pregnant, who was the father of the child in her stomach? Sue couldn't figure this out no matter what. He understood Seveni very well and knew that with Seveni's personality, she wouldn't easily fall in love with a man, but once she did, she would be very persistent. And with Seveni's absolute power and control in the Lampari kingdom, if she really liked a man, she could openly admit it. Sue believed that there wouldn't be a normal man who would reject Seveni's favor. Not to mention Seveni's incomparably noble status, just based on her appearance that was only a bit inferior to Steele's and her gentle personality, she was the dream partner of all men. Of course, to Sue, her identity as the queen was a hindrance. Since it was like this, why did Seveni hide it? Why did she have to secretly get pregnant? She was the queen of the kingdom. Could it be that she wanted to keep hiding it? Sue couldn't understand why Seveni did this, so when he saw Steele, he couldn't help raising his question to Steele. For what reason would a woman be unwilling to reveal the child's father when she is pregnant? Steele looked at Sue in confusion before revealing a smile. What? You finally know the rumors about Her Majesty? Sue was surprised, you know? Of course. Steele revealed a faint smile. Don't forget, I'm not like you, often moving around the Lampari kingdom. Sue nodded. So you're the same as Freeman, you already knew? Because the New Moon Chamber of Commerce's main business, whether it was the other race labor agency or the New Moon Troop's performance, they mainly targeted the Lampari kingdom, so Steele was often in the Lampari kingdom. She came more often than Sue. Did you hear it from Freeman? Steele looked at Sue in surprise and slightly knit her brows. He doesn't seem like someone who likes to gossip, so why would he mention this rumor to you? Perhaps I mentioned 70 in front of him, so he thought of this rumor and told me? Steele thought for a bit before shaking her head. Perhaps. Steele, then do you think this rumor is trustworthy? It's not trustworthy. Steele kept shaking her head. However, when Sui let out a sigh of relief, her next words almost made Sui jump up in shock. Because this matter is true, it doesn't matter if it's trustworthy or not. Really? It's actually true? Sui grabbed Steele's shoulder in shock with a look of disbelief. How is this possible? 70 is actually pregnant? Who is the father of this child? You must be joking, right? Steele turned to look at Suyi's hands tightly holding her shoulder. Because Sui was using too much force, she felt a bit of pain and slightly knit her brows. But she looked at Sui with a ghost of a smile. Hey Sui, what are you so excited for? Even if 70 is really pregnant, you don't need to be this excited, right? Right. Sui was stunned. After being stunned for a bit, he muttered to himself as he let go of his hands. After a while, he revealed a serious expression and asked Steele, "How are you certain this is true?" Steele rubbed her shoulder and revealed a smile of deep meaning to Sui. "I saw through it myself. Of course, Her Majesty 70 must know that I can see through it, so her being willing to meet me is equal to telling me." Sui imagined 70 meeting Steele. When he thought of 70's big belly, he felt that it was very strange. Then, "She didn't mention anything else to you?" Sui asked. "Anything else? Are you talking about the child's father? It's a pity that Her Majesty 70 didn't say anything and I didn't ask. According to my guesses, she specially met me and revealed this information to me because she wanted me to pass it on to you." Sui was surprised. Why? If she wanted to tell me this, she could have just directly told me. Why did she have to go through all this trouble? Steele looked at Sui and revealed a thought-provoking smile. She gave a sigh and shook her head before standing up. "I don't want to talk about this. Her Majesty must have her own considerations for doing this. As for why she did this, it isn't related to me." Sui looked at Steele, who turned to leave the room in a daze. He could feel that Steele's mood was a bit strange and her tone was clearly a bit unhappy. Sui thought about it before patting his head. Damn. He had discussed another woman's pregnancy in front of Steele and was this nervous. Of course Steele would be unhappy. Not to mention that this person was 70, who had a good relationship with Sui before. Thinking of this, Sui quickly stood up and chased after Steele. He took her hand and kissed it. "Steele, sorry." "Sorry?" Steele turned to look at Sui in surprise. "Why are you sorry?" "It's nothing, I'm just sorry for my carelessness," Sui said. Steele stopped and looked at Sui in a daze for a while. She suddenly revealed a complicated smile that was filled with gratitude and helplessness. Then she raised her hands to hold Sui's face and leaned in to give Sui a deep kiss. After a while, the two separated while panting. Steele's smile returned to normal and she softly patted Sui as she said with a smile, "If you really feel sorry for me, then you have to perform well on stage. This is the most important step for our new Moon Chamber of Commerce. So if you mess it up, I won't be able to forgive you for the rest of my life." Sui laughed and slapped his chest as he confidently said, "Relax, I'll be fine. With me here, I'll definitely leave a deep impression on everyone. I guarantee that they won't be able to forget this even if they want to." Steele revealed a faint smile and took Suyi's hand again. "Then let's go out." The two held hands as they walked down the hallway, passing several staff members in uniform. Finally they passed through two curtains and arrived in the center of an incomparably large stage. Looking around, there were many important people from Banta City, the surrounding cities, and even the Lampari Kingdom. There were even people from the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Drake Duchy, the Mirando Duchy, and other countries that had come from far away. They had completely filled the incomparably large Banta City Theater that had been built 3 months ago. When Sui and Steele came out, everyone's eyes fell onto them with looks of expectation. Today was a joint press conference between the New Flyer and the New Moon Chamber of Commerce, announcing to everyone that there was a new product that the two companies had developed together. As for this mysterious new product, Sue represented the New Flyer in giving a single evaluation in the newspaper. With it, your life will become much more colorful. Chapter 7:17. All the lights in the theater were suddenly turned off and the entire theater fell into darkness. There was an uproar in the crowd before they calmed down. Everyone stared at the stage in the center without blinking. They believed that since Sue had said this, then there would be something unexpected. This was because the New Flyer's previous product announcements had never been as grand as this one. What made everyone even more curious was that this new product was being announced together with the New Moon Chamber of Commerce. Even if the New Moon Chamber of Commerce's chairman Steele was Sue's wife, it shouldn't have anything to do with the New Moon Chamber of Commerce choosing to announce this new product. This meant that this mysterious new product was definitely related to the New Moon Chamber of Commerce. But what did the New Moon Chamber of Commerce do? Other than being responsible for the other race workers in the Lampari Kingdom, the New Moon Chamber of Commerce was mainly responsible for the various businesses related to the New Moon Troupe. But what did these businesses have to do with the magic machines that the New Flyer was responsible for? Everyone was waiting to see what would happen. For a moment, the theater fell into silence. In the darkness where only the sound of heavy breathing could be heard, a faint blue light suddenly appeared from the center of the stage. It lit up the entire stage and also lit up the few rows of audience members closest to the stage. An azure blue light shone from the stage, but it shot upward and scattered, illuminating the empty space above the theater. While everyone was confused, there was a melodious music that came from the light that lit up the stage. Several figures suddenly appeared on the light screen that lit up the stage, dancing to the music. Everyone looked at the figures in the air in shock, and their faces were filled with confusion. These figures were very lifelike and looked no different from real people at first glance, but if one looked carefully, they would find that these people were floating in the air. As the figures sang and danced, it didn't take long for people to tell that they were just illusions floating in the air and not real people. However, because these phantoms were too clear, even the creases on everyone's clothes, the slight swaying caused by the dance, and even the fine hairs on the tails of a few of them could be seen clearly. Therefore, there was no difference between them and real people. Yes, if it was someone who watched the New Moon Troupe's performances, they would instantly recognize that these figures were the main members of the New Moon Troupe. At this moment, the one leading the dance was the other fox girl from the New Moon Troupe, who was as famous as Avril Metali. Everyone stared intently at the dozen or so figures dancing in the air, their hearts filled with doubt. If these silhouettes were all illusions, then how did these illusions come about? There were some knowledgeable people in the audience who had heard of illusion magic before, but would the Frestec Chamber of Commerce and the New Moon Chamber of Commerce set up an illusion magic array on the stage for this product announcement? Wouldn't that be too wasteful? Then again, what did setting up an illusion magic array have to do with the new product? Could it be that they were going to sell this illusion magic array to others? Then again, they couldn't bring it back even if they wanted to. Under everyone's confusion, the song on the stage ended and the figures gradually stopped dancing. According to everyone's expectations, since the dance had ended, then the figures should have disappeared. But what happened next was once again out of everyone's expectations. Although the music had ended and the figures had stopped dancing, they didn't disappear. Instead, they stopped to chat in groups of twos and threes. Listening to the clear and melodious voices coming from the light screen, and clearly seeing the witty, cheerful, and seductive smiles of the people representing the members of the New Moon Troupe, it was as if he was watching them playing and talking in front of him. After a while, another figure lit up on the edge of the light screen and walked over to the Beastmen girls of the New Moon Troupe. People familiar with the New Moon Troupe could recognize that this figure was the choreographer of the New Moon Troupe, Lillian Sophie. Almost all of the dances of the New Moon Troupe were choreographed by her. Lillian Sophie walked over to the Beastmen girls and clapped her hands. The girls calmed down and looked at her. Afterwards, Lillian Sophie pointed out the mistakes and imperfections in their dance to the Beastmen girls. The Beastmen girls listened attentively, each of them showing a serious expression. At this moment, the light screen suddenly flickered, and all the figures on the stage disappeared. What appeared in front of the audience was a scene that seemed to be in the backstage dressing room. There was only one figure in this scene. She was standing by the window of the changing room, staring at a pot of flowers on the windowsill. She had a water bottle in her hand and was currently watering the flowers. While watering, she was muttering to herself. Looking at her expression, it was like she was taking care of a little child. Then the camera changed again, and what appeared in front of everyone was an outdoor scene. This was a small field, and there were 3 Beastmen girls moving their arms and legs. They would occasionally jump up and down, as if they were training their bodies. Then the scene changed again. After the scene changed several times, the light screen suddenly dimmed. After a while, a row of large words appeared in the middle of the light screen. The daily life of the New Moon Troupe. The large words lasted for a while, and then the light screen flashed. There were many scenes of the New Moon Troupe on the light screen. But it was different from the performances of the New Moon Troupe. The scenes that appeared on the light screen were all about the daily lives of the New Moon Troupe. It was mainly about the daily lives of the Beastmen girls of the New Moon Troupe. Other than the scenes of their hard work and training, it also included the scenes of their leisure and leisure time. It even recorded the happy and troubled lives of the girls. After seeing this scene, the people suddenly discovered that these Beastmen girls weren't that far away from them. Besides being Beastmen, they weren't that different from ordinary humans. They needed to eat, they needed to sleep, they needed to have fun, and they needed to have troubles. The only difference was that their appearance was different from that of humans. But the Beastmen girls of the New Moon Troupe were all carefully selected. They were all beautiful and attracted a lot of attention. Now that they were showing their daily lives in front of everyone, it made people feel that it was fresh, and it made them feel closer to each other. Unknowingly, people began to be attracted by their every move and began to care about the troubles they encountered in life. At the same time, they were happy for the things that made them happy. Occasionally, there would be scenes of 1 or 2 Beastmen girls making mistakes in their daily lives. For example, the best dancer, Metali, was very muddle-headed in her daily life. Even when she was walking, she would accidentally bump into a wall. Seeing Metali's absent-minded appearance, bumping into a wall and then squatting down while holding her head, the people below the stage couldn't help but laugh. This was not a mockery. Instead, it was because they saw a celebrity shining brightly on the stage, dazzling everyone's eyes and making them unable to look directly at her. Yet, she actually revealed such an appearance during normal times. Naturally, they would find it funny and, at the same time, feel close to her. Other than the scenes of the members of the New Moon Troupe, there were also scenes of the other members of the New Moon Troupe. Through these scenes, people found that even though the New Moon Troupe's performances were brilliant on the surface, the work behind the scenes was very difficult. Unknowingly, people were already attracted by the story behind these images. Time quickly passed and finally stopped at the moment when the representative of the New Moon Troupe, the fox girl known as the Sound of Nature, Avril, turned around. Avril seemed to have heard the shout and suddenly turned around. Her beautiful face revealed a pleasantly surprised smile that was very dazzling. At the same time, the fox tail behind her stood up and slightly swayed, showing the surprise in her heart. However, the scene suddenly stopped. After the light screen froze for a while, it dimmed again and another row of words appeared. The daily life of the New Moon Troupe. The first episode has ended. Then the light screen dimmed and the entire stage fell into darkness again. After a while, the magic lights in the theater lit up and the entire theater was lit up again. However, at this time, the audience in the theater all had a look of disappointment on their faces, as if they were reluctant to part with him. "It's over like this? Is there a mistake? We haven't seen enough yet. What did Avril see? Why is she so happy?" Everyone revealed a confused expression as they looked at Sue and Steele, who had reappeared on stage. Actually, what everyone was confused about the most was this new illusion performance. What did it have to do with this mysterious new product? Sue looked around and felt the attention and confusion in everyone's eyes as he revealed a faint smile. Everyone has seen the performance just now. Aren't you all looking forward to the next story?" There was an uproar under the stage. Wasn't this nonsense? Yet, he stopped halfway. This was simply suspenseful. There were even some people who couldn't help loudly expressing their thoughts, causing the entire theater to become noisy. Sue revealed a smile and raised his hands. The theater became silent again as everyone focused on Sue, waiting to hear what explanation he would give. However, Sue didn't say anything and clapped his hands. Two beautiful beastmen girls walked out from behind the stage with a rectangular box in their hand. Sue pointed at the strange-looking metal box and loudly said to everyone, "Let me introduce to everyone, this is the new household magic machine that our new flyer and the new Moon Chamber of Commerce have jointly developed, called the Magic Illusion Projector. If you want to know the daily life of the new Moon Troupe, then you can buy one." Chapter 7:18. Sue of course hoped that the Magic Illusion Projector would sell like hotcakes and quickly reach everyone's homes. It would be like the televisions on Earth, changing the entertainment model of the signs and making the lives of the people of the continent much richer. But the facts were that this was clearly impossible. First, although the Magic Illusion Projector had been developed, it hadn't been mass-produced yet and the cost control hadn't been done well. It led to the Magic Illusion Projector, that was the same as the one announced at the product announcement, to cost close to 70 gold coins. The Frestec Chamber of Commerce placed a high value on this high-definition Magic Illusion Projector that was like a real person was playing in front of you. This was because the price of each unit was set at a shocking 150 gold coins. This kind of exaggerated price was not something normal people could afford. Even if the Lampari Kingdom's economy had greatly increased, increasing the income of many families, spending 150 gold coins to buy a Magic Illusion Projector wasn't suitable. So after Sue announced the price at the product announcement, this Magic Illusion Projector didn't immediately sell like the other products announced by New Flyer. Only a few large nobles and large merchants of Banta City were interested in buying it. Other than the price, the most important factor that restricted the Magic Illusion Projector from selling was that Sue and Steele didn't plan on selling it immediately. The reason was very simple: this Magic Illusion Projector wasn't hard to make, but the illusions it projected had a high requirement. This was the first time this kind of program had appeared on signs, so there was a lack of talent. Sue had only used his experience on Earth and experimented several times before deciding to use a documentary for the first time. This was a program that introduced the daily lives of the new Moon Troupe. However, just to make a short documentary that was less than 40 minutes in length, it took a full month of preparation. The Beastmen girls of the new Moon Troupe had a lot of experience performing in front of people, but this was their first time participating in this kind of setup, so they didn't know what to do. If Sue had not repeatedly instructed them to act as they usually did and do what they were supposed to do, the filming of the documentary would have been extremely awkward. There was still a long way to go if they wanted to have a variety of programs like the ones on Earth. But no matter what, the success of this documentary was very meaningful to Sue. This meant that the signs would soon have a form of entertainment similar to that on Earth through the illusion magic array obtained from the Azhara tribe. This would make this world closer to Earth. At the same time, although this product announcement didn't cause the Magic Illusion Projector to immediately sell, there were two other good effects. First, it allowed many people to recognize the Beastmen girls of the New Moon Troupe through this documentary. After the product announcement, the New Moon Chamber of Commerce had set up a magic illusion projector in the busiest part of Banta City's new district. It would play the first episode of the New Moon Troupe's daily life every day. Through these vivid scenes, the people of Banta City became more and more familiar with the Beastmen girls of the New Moon Troupe, causing their popularity in Banta City to soar. According to Steele's plan, the New Moon Chamber of Commerce would set up similar magic illusion projectors in Anvilmar City and the other large cities of the Lampari Kingdom. They would also broadcast this documentary, allowing the people of the Lampari Kingdom to understand the New Moon Troupe more. Other than the second episode of the New Moon Troupe's daily life that was being filmed, according to Su Yi's suggestion, the New Moon Chamber of Commerce was planning on creating a series of movies like the television dramas on Earth. They planned on using these magic illusion projectors to broadcast them. According to the model that Su Yi proposed, these series of movies would only be broadcast in the early stages. If one wanted to watch them after that, they would have to buy a ticket to a theater or buy a magic illusion projector and the corresponding magic array module to watch them at home. Of course, with the new flyer's research on the magic illusion projector, Su Yi's final goal was to develop a smaller version of the magic illusion projector. He would also reduce the cost of the magic illusion projector and lower the price, ensuring that most families could afford it. But if one had to seriously compare it, this magic illusion projector wasn't like a television, it was more like a video recorder. As for the videotape, it was an illusion magic array module that recorded the various illusion magic videos. The second was the deep cooperation with the Azhara tribe. This magic array was learned from the Azhara tribe. When developing this magic illusion projector, Su Yi didn't kick away the Azhara tribe, rather he took the initiative to ask Elder Undine for a cooperation. In the end, according to the agreement between both sides, Elder Undine sent out 5 elves from the Azhara tribe. 2 of them entered the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, specializing in magic array research. The other 3 entered the New Moon Chamber of Commerce, being in charge of the magic illusion projector-related work. The new flyer and the New Moon Chamber of Commerce signed a cooperation agreement with the Azhara tribe. According to the agreement, as long as the new flyer sold a magic illusion projector, they would give the Azhara tribe a gold coin as a bonus. Every time the New Moon Chamber of Commerce made a profit from the magic array, they would also give 5% to the Azhara tribe. When Elder Undine first taught Steele the magic array, she didn't think too much about it. She never thought that because of this inadvertent magic array, the Azhara tribe would receive a profit. It really was unexpected, but she didn't reject this profit. As an elder of the Azhara tribe, how could she not see that Su Yi wanted to use this bonus to deepen the relationship and cooperation between them? This was exactly what she wanted, so how could she reject it? Of course, the main cooperation project between the new flyer and the Azhara tribe wasn't in this area, but rather in the kingdom of Ruhr. At the end of October, a road was built to the south of the Principality of Constantine that led to the kingdom of Ruhr. This road also connected to the cliff that was the border between the kingdom of Ruhr and the Principality of Constantine. This allowed the kingdom of Ruhr and the Principality of Constantine to have an important road in the north and south. Just like the Stru Road in the north that connected to the Moon Shadow tribe, the second line of the Stru Road in the south also connected to an elven tribe in the kingdom of Ruhr. It was the Azhara tribe, and because of this road, the Azhara tribe was finally exposed in front of everyone. The people of the kingdom of Ruhr finally discovered that there were elves in their kingdom as well. Moreover, it was an extremely ancient tribe with a large population of elves. This discovery made the people of the kingdom of Ruhr excited for a long time. There were even many people who traveled thousands of miles just to see the Azhara tribe up close. But it was a pity that even though Elder Undine had decided to let the Azhara tribe reappear in front of human society, it didn't mean that she would truly open up the entire Azhara tribe to all humans. The humans who came to visit the Azhara tribe could only see some hazy illusions in front of the illusion array, but they couldn't see what was going on. And not long after the news of the Azhara tribe spread in the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Kingdom of Ruhr suddenly announced to the public that the area around the Azhara tribe was designated as the Elven Territory. Outsiders were not allowed to enter without the permission of the Azhara tribe. Once this news was announced, it immediately caused an uproar. This was the territory of humans. Why was it designated as the Elven Territory? It wasn't the time before the racial war when the elves had absolute control over the continent. Why would humans make special concessions for the elves? Then the Kingdom of Ruhr explained this matter. The Kingdom of Ruhr stated that it was because thousands of years had passed since the racial war that humans had absolute control over the signs. On the other hand, the elves had become a rare race in the signs. Since this was the case, why not give the elves some space so that they could peacefully coexist with humans? In this announcement, King Tarek questioned on behalf of the Kingdom of Ruhr. Ever since the racial war, the dragons and winged people have never been seen in the signs. The halflings only exist in legends. Although the elves can still be seen occasionally, there aren't many of them left. If this continues, the elves may completely disappear from this continent. I'm afraid that the orcs and dwarves will gradually disappear after that. It's good that humans are ruling over the continent, but do you want us humans to be the only ones left on this continent? This continent is lonely because we humans won't be able to find another intelligent race other than ourselves. Since we've already ruled over the continent, why can't we be more tolerant and give the other races some space to live? In the past, when the elves ruled over the continent, and even before that, when the winged people ruled over the continent, they didn't exterminate the other races. If they can do it, why can't we humans do it? We want to prove to other races that we humans are a tolerant race, a magnanimous race that can tolerate other races. Chapter 719. When this announcement was made, there were both positive and negative comments. Those who agreed felt that King Tarek was right. Since humans were the rulers of the continent, they should be more tolerant and give the other races space to live, allowing everyone to coexist peacefully. Those who opposed felt that if they weren't of the same race, their hearts would be different. No matter how good humans were to the other races wouldn't coexist peacefully with humans. When the elves ruled the continent before, although they didn't exterminate the other races, they weren't that friendly to them. At least when the humans rose, the elves suppressed them in many ways. If it wasn't for the humans developing too quickly and gaining control of the continent through the race wars, no one could have predicted what would have happened. But no matter what kind of opinion it was, it couldn't affect King Tarek's decision. The Kingdom of Ruhr's Southwest Elven Special Zone was established, which was an opportunity for many normal people. In the past, the elves rarely appeared in the human world, so there were rumors in many places that the elves had completely disappeared from the continent. Then with the appearance of the new flyer, the elves began cooperating with the humans through the new flyer. This allowed the humans to confirm that the elves hadn't disappeared and were still active on the continent. The first reaction of most humans wasn't panic, but rather pleasant surprise. Now that there were so few elves and the humans had controlled the continent for thousands of years, could it be that they were still afraid of the elves fighting back? So when it came to the elves, most humans were curious. When Agnes appeared in Banta City for the first time and caused a stir, it was because of this curiosity. Now that the Kingdom of Ruhr suddenly announced an elven special zone, most humans felt that it was a bit novel. They weren't like the people who opposed it, feeling that it was a hidden danger to humanity. In the end, if the elves were that powerful, they wouldn't have been taken from the control of the continent by the humans, right? Because the southern part of the Kingdom of Ruhr was similar to the Principality of Constantine, even if it was higher above sea level and the climate wasn't as warm as the Principality of Constantine, at the beginning of November, it didn't feel like early winter like the other parts of the continent, and it was still warm and comfortable. In such a climate, the efficiency of the workers' work was naturally the highest. In less than half a month, the Rudsun Kingdom's Elven Special District in the southwest province had built foundations of houses, with houses rising from the ground one by one. If one were to observe carefully, they would find that the foundations of these houses were completely different from the foundations of most human houses. These houses were built by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce according to the blueprints provided by the Azhara tribe. They were built for the elves to live in and had a distinct elven style. After the Kingdom of Ruhr officially declared this area as a special elven zone, Elder Undine immediately contacted the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce through Sue and invited the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to help the Azhara tribe build such a house. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce didn't know that the Azhara tribe was willing to do this, but Sue already knew her intentions from his private conversation with Elder Undine. Just like Elder Elucia of the Nightsong tribe and Elder Lysania of the Moonshadow tribe, Elder Undine also agreed to cooperate with the humans. That was why she reached an agreement with the Kingdom of Ruhr through the New Flyer and finally obtained such a piece of land as the exclusive territory of the elves. But unlike Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania, Elder Undine clearly didn't intend to leave the fate of the Azhara tribe in the hands of the New Flyer. Although she had a close cooperation with the New Flyer, Elder Undine had her own plans. The reason why she had the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce build these elven-style buildings that were rarely seen in the signs was to show that the Azhara tribe intended to face the humans head-on. After these houses were built, there would be a total of more than 800 houses, with more than 2,000 elves temporarily living there. Such a scale was similar to a small town in human society. That's right, a small town was about to be built here, a special elven town. Elder Undine, if you really intend to gradually develop this place into an elven city, just having houses is far from enough. The Amrit Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Cruz looked at the busy workers in the distance before turning to speak to Elder Undine beside him. A complete city, in addition to the residents, must have all kinds of shops, restaurants, government offices, and police stations. Most importantly, it must be able to provide enough places for the residents to work, such as all kinds of workshops and even factories. Elder Undine smiled and nodded. I understand. When I was discussing this matter with Chairman Sue mentioned this to me. According to the agreement between me and Chairman Sue, our Azhara tribe will cooperate with the New Flyer to jointly build 2 magic machine factories outside the city. Magic machine factories? President Cruz looked at Elder Undine in surprise. He wasn't surprised that Elder Undine would cooperate with the New Flyer, nor was it strange that the Azhara tribe would jointly build magic machine factories with the New Flyer. But wouldn't this mean that this place belonged to the elves, such as a large amount of human aura entering? Wouldn't this go against Elder Undine's wish to make this place exclusive to the elves? Elder Undine glanced at President Cruz and seemed to have guessed what he was thinking. She smiled and said, "These 2 factories, from the managers to the ordinary workers, will all be filled by our clansmen. We won't employ humans." Oh, President Cruz nodded. He thought that although the Nightsong tribe and New Flyer had cooperated in the plastic processing factory, as well as the Moon Shadow tribe and New Flyer's fertilizer processing factory, although they were mainly controlled by the elves, there were many human factors involved. This Elder Undine was more thorough than the Nightsong tribe and Moon Shadow tribe. Of course, this had nothing to do with him. What he cared about was the construction of these 2 factories. Of course, when building these 2 factories, we will give priority to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. After all, in this regard, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce has a lot of experience, right? Elder Undine's words with a gentle smile made Chairman Cruz feel relieved. President Cruz laughed and patted his chest as he confidently said, "Please be assured, Your Excellency Elder. Our Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce doesn't just have a lot of experience in building factories, we even have a lot of experience in building cities. If you're willing to trust us, I can promise you that Azhara City will be built in a way that you'll be satisfied with." Elder Undine nodded with a faint smile, but she didn't say anything else. There wasn't even a small town here yet, so it was too early to talk about building a city. Of course, she didn't deny what President Cruz said. The current Banta city had already become the benchmark for the surrounding countries. Although the expansion of Banta City was mainly planned by Sui, the concrete details were all done by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. So when President Cruz said that they had a lot of experience in building cities, he wasn't bragging at all. The two continued to discuss the construction of the houses for a while. Sui and Agnes, who had been patrolling the construction site in the distance, came over together. Sui came here to discuss the next step of their cooperation with Elder Undine, and Agnes came with him because she represented the Nightsong tribe and the Moon Shadow tribe. Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania were very happy and supportive of the Azhara tribe's willingness to integrate into human society. The most important thing was that they were willing to cooperate with the new flyer. Letting Agnes represent the two tribes not only meant that they supported the Azhara tribe as elves, but also because Agnes was one of Suyi's wives, they also supported the idea of the new flyer. To put it simply, Agnes had already become the link between the elves and Sui. She had already played a part of the role that Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania wanted her to play. Seeing the two come closer, Elder Undine's eyes fell onto Agnes' stomach and paused for a bit. Then she looked at Sui and revealed a smile with deep meaning. Chairman Su, although there are precedents of humans and elves being together, because of the difference in races, it isn't easy to give birth to a half-elf. If you don't mind, our tribe has some information on this. You can study it, perhaps it will be of help to you and Agnes. Suyi's old face turned red and he couldn't help coughing twice. Since Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania had decided to give Agnes to him, it had already been close to a year. Although Sui had some resistance before, after being with Agnes all day and still not showing any signs of opposition and even doing her best to facilitate it, Sui and Agnes were officially together in the end. It had already been half a year since the two of them were together, but Agnes didn't have any special reaction. This made Sui wonder if it was because the biological structure of the elves was different from humans, so there was a problem in this area. Now that Elder Undine suddenly mentioned this, even if Sui felt a bit awkward, he still honestly nodded and expressed his thanks to Elder Undine. "All right, Elder Undine. Being able to have a child with Agnes is also my hope. Thank you for your help, I will definitely properly study this information." Elder Undine looked at the blushing Agnes on the side and her heart was filled with surprise. The elves and humans were different races, so normally speaking, Agnes shouldn't be blushing because of this. But now that she had this kind of reaction, it could be seen that she was already very close to humans. From this, it could be seen just how much influence Sui, this human, had on her. The scene of her meeting with Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania flashed in her mind. Thinking of the affirmation and praise the two elders had for Sui, Elder Undine suddenly gave a soft sigh. "Chairman Su, the child between you and Agnes might be the first half-elf in history to be officially recognized and accepted by both sides." Chapter 720. The history of the elves and humans coexisting on the Signs was over 5,000 years. In these 5,000 years of history, the relationship between the elves and humans had never been harmonious. When the elves first controlled the continent, other than a few races, the elves considered all the other races to be inferior and didn't put them in their eyes at all. Humans were not an exception. With the outbreak of the race war, after the humans controlled the continent, the elves gradually disappeared from the continent. The relationship between the humans and elves became even more tense. Under normal circumstances, there was no chance of the two races marrying at all. But there were exceptions to everything. In these 5,000 years of history, whether it was when the elves controlled the continent or when the humans controlled the continent, there had always been examples of elves and humans marrying. But these marrying between races had always met with strong opposition from both sides. The elves opposed it because they felt that marrying with humans would stain their noble elven bloodline, and the humans opposed it because they felt that humans were betraying their own race. This caused the half-elves born from the union of humans and elves to be discriminated against by both races. It caused the half-elves to have a low status on the signs, and they rarely received official recognition. Elder Undine said that the child born from Sue and Agnes would be the first half-elf in the history of the signs to be recognized by both sides, but this was definitely not a lie. Of course, this was also related to Sue and Agnes' status. Although Suyi's status in human society could not be considered the highest, with his status as the chairman of the New Flyer and his strength as a great magician, there weren't many people in human society that had the right to criticize him. No matter who he married with, it was impossible for humans to look at his child differently. As for Agnes' side, actually comparing it, the humans were much more tolerant of the half-elves compared to the elves. This was because in the eyes of most elves, marrying with a lowly race like humans was a kind of disgrace. The appearance of the half-elves was equal to this disgrace, so naturally they would be discriminated against by the elves. However, Agnes was the one that the Nightsong tribe and the Moon Shadow tribe had recommended, hoping that she could marry Sue. Or to put it more directly, the Nightsong tribe and the Moon Shadow tribe wanted Agnes and Sue to marry as soon as possible and give birth to a child that belonged to them. This would allow the Nightsong tribe and the Moon Shadow tribe to have a closer relationship with Sue, or perhaps with the New Flyer. To put it bluntly, this could be considered a political marriage with a very clear purpose. Since it was like this, it was hard to say what the other elves would think, but at least the half-elves born by Agnes and Sue would not be discriminated against in the Nightsong tribe or the Moon Shadow tribe. As for the Azhara tribe, Elder Undine looked at Sue whispering in Agnes' ear and then looked at Agnes' blushing face, revealing a smile of praise on her face. She was clear on Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania's plans, and she agreed with them. But through her observations over the past few days, she was certain that no matter what the meaning behind Sue and Agnes' union was, at least Agnes and Sue were happy. It was clear that Agnes truly liked Sue and wasn't forced to marry Sue because of Elder Elucia's orders. And Sue also treated Agnes with sincerity, not being perfunctory because of the meaning behind this union. It was because she could see this that Elder Undine's affirmation of Sue deepened. A human who could treat the elves with sincerity like this, it was no wonder Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania praised him so much. Of course, Elder Undine's acknowledgement of Sue mainly came from Suyi's sincere support for the Azhara tribe. The reason why the Kingdom of Ruhr would take the risk of being criticized and make this a special elven region was because Sue represented the New Flyer in giving the conditions to King Ruhr. Not only would the New Flyer transfer more household magic machine-related technology to the Kingdom of Ruhr, helping the Kingdom of Ruhr establish a more complete household magic machine industry, they would also give the Kingdom of Ruhr more support in many projects. The most important thing that made the Kingdom of Ruhr make their decision was the other condition that the New Flyer agreed to. That was to transfer some military magic machine technology to the Kingdom of Ruhr. Before this, other than the New Flyer, only the Lampari Kingdom had a small part of the military magic machine technology because of their close relationship with the New Flyer. The surrounding countries had already realized the terrifying might of the military magic machines through the Lampari Kingdom's civil war, the Principality of Constantine's civil war, as well as the several battles between the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom, so naturally they were very interested in the military magic machines. Although they could buy various military magic machines from the New Flyer, compared to buying them, it was more reliable to have the technology to make them themselves. So whether it was the Lampari Kingdom that had a small part of it, the Kingdom of Roor that didn't have any, the surrounding countries, or even the enemy of the Lampari Kingdom, the Sack Kingdom that had conflicts with the New Flyer, they were also very interested in the military magic machine technology. However, the New Flyer had always held this technology very tightly, not releasing a single bit. The other countries were very helpless about this, but they couldn't do anything to the New Flyer. Now that the New Flyer was willing to transfer some military magic machine technology to the Kingdom of Roor, King Tarek was naturally willing to agree to any condition that Su-Yi put forward. Not to mention setting up a special elven region. Even if Su-Yi directly took some land from the Kingdom of Roor, King Tarek would immediately agree. As for New Flyer's request of the Kingdom of Roor to open up their mineral market to the New Flyer, it wasn't that important compared to this. Then again, even if Su-Yi didn't rely on this matter to raise this condition, just based on the things the Azhara tribe had, King Tarek was already prepared to agree to the condition that the New Flyer had. In short, now that the New Flyer, the Azhara tribe, and the Kingdom of Roor had reached a three-way cooperation, the Kingdom of Roor had obtained an important part of the military magic machine technology, the Azhara tribe had obtained private territory and some support from the Kingdom of Roor, while also obtaining the chance to cooperate with the New Flyer. As for the benefits that the New Flyer obtained, Your Excellency Elder, I think that you should have seen the magic illusion projectors that were sent last time, right? Su-Yi and Elder Undine were discussing the gnomes before changing the topic. What do you think after seeing those illusions? The corner of Elder Undine's mouth rose slightly. It's very interesting. Chairman Su, I never thought that you would actually use the magic illusion array for this kind of thing. I have to admit that you humans are indeed the most creative out of all the races. President Cruz on the side laughed and shook his head. No, Your Excellency Elder, you're wrong. It's not that all of us humans are creative, it's Chairman Su who is creative. I don't dare to speak about other aspects, but when it comes to magic machines, I think that all of the other humans added together can't compare to Chairman Su. Cruz, you're exaggerating. Su-Yi shook his head with a smile. I just think about this a bit more, so sometimes I have strange ideas in my head, thank you. President Cruz rolled his eyes. Then why don't I have these strange ideas in my head? Su-Yi revealed a faint smile, thinking that if you had these strange ideas like me, then I would have to wonder if you also transmigrated from Earth. Your Excellency Elder, since even you find it interesting, then I'm certain that this magic illusion projector will be welcomed by everyone on the continent. Not just humans but all races. Or it could be said that this kind of model will be welcomed. I believe you. Elder Undine gently nodded. Su-Yi paused before continuing. When I discussed the details of our cooperation before, you said that your tribe had some special magic, and wanted to cooperate with our New Flyer to develop some interesting magic machines, so of course there's no problem. But after seeing this magic illusion projector, I had another idea. What idea? This time, the one who couldn't wait to ask was President Cruz. Su-Yi smiled and turned to look at the elven town that was still under construction. He raised his hands and drew a circle, as if he wanted to enclose the entire town. Your Excellency Elder, don't you think that it's a pity to leave this town like this after it's built? Elder Undine slightly knit her brows. Chairman Su, what do you want to say? Su-Yi turned around again, and looked at Elder Undine with a serious expression. Your Excellency Elder, if you really want the elves to integrate with us humans, then it's not advisable to continue hiding in the illusion array, but it's also not advisable to live in this elven town and refuse to let humans in. I think that you should open up a bit and open this place to humans. Let humans know more about you elves, this way more humans will accept you. Elder Undine thought for a bit and didn't say anything, but instead asked, "Then Chairman Su, what do you think we should do?" "It's very simple." Su-yi turned around again and looked at the busy construction site. He raised his voice and said, "According to my idea, let's turn this place into a film and entertainment base. What do you think?" Film and entertainment base? Elder Undine and President Cruz looked at each other. This word. Individually, they knew each word, but when put together, what did it mean? Chapter 721. Using the power of the magic industry to drive a new entertainment industry in signs wasn't something Su-yi came up with on a whim. When he first transmigrated to this world, and felt that this world's entertainment was extremely poor compared to Earth, Su-yi already had the idea of using magic to change the entertainment model of this world. The magic piano model he made in the Senkaiser Academy was a small experiment. Later, with the creation of the new flyer and the popularization of magic machines on a large scale, Su-yi's idea became stronger and stronger. It was just that he couldn't find a good and suitable idea to push this matter forward. This time, because of the illusion magic array he learned from Elder Undine, after developing the magic illusion projector, Su-yi was inspired and immediately extended countless ideas from the entertainment industry on Earth. Building a film and entertainment base would make it more convenient to shoot more illusion films. As for where this film and entertainment base would be built, after some consideration, Su-yi decided to cooperate with the Azhara tribe and build it here. Firstly, the illusion magic array was learned from the Azhara tribe, so when building the film and entertainment base here, when shooting illusion films, it would be much more convenient to use the Azhara tribe's mastery of the illusion magic array. Secondly, this could be considered as an attempt by Su-yi to strengthen the relationship between the Azhara tribe and human society, and to promote further integration between the elves and humans. According to Su-yi's plan, if everything went well, this film and entertainment base would inevitably become a very famous place in the future. It would attract the attention of countless people just like the film and entertainment bases on Earth. The Azhara tribe wasn't ready to welcome a large number of humans yet, but as long as this film and entertainment base was built, as the illusion films became more and more popular, the Azhara tribe would sooner or later accept the participation of humans and truly integrate with human society. After explaining to Elder Undine in detail the role of this film and entertainment base and the various benefits it could bring to the Azhara tribe, Elder Undine pondered for a moment, but didn't immediately agree. Instead, she said that she would seriously consider it. Su-yi was very satisfied with this answer. Having been in contact with the elves of the Nightsong tribe and the Moon Shadow tribe for a long time, Su-yi believed that he knew the elves very well. The elves were generally arrogant. If they were unwilling to do something, they would definitely reject it without hesitation. Since Elder Undine had promised to consider it, it meant that she was already tempted. As for how to persuade him, that would be left to Steel. After all, Su-yi had only made suggestions regarding the film and entertainment base and the promotion of the entire science entertainment industry. The specifics were left to Steel and her new Moon Chamber of Commerce. As for Su-yi himself, of course, he had to focus more on New Flyer and the development of the magic industry. Through the cooperation of the Azhara tribe and the Kingdom of Ruhr, the biggest benefit that New Flyer obtained was that the Kingdom of Ruhr had greatly increased the share of mineral resources they provided to New Flyer. This greatly satisfied the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's increasing demand for product. With the Frestek Chamber of Commerce expanding their production scale and popularizing the automatic production magic machines, the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's production capacity quickly increased. In the final month of year 3785, the Frestek Chamber of Commerce had produced a total of 7,219 variable temperature magic air conditioners. Compared to the 3,105 of this year's first month, their production had more than doubled. The Xinfei brand household magic machines didn't need to worry about sales in the surrounding countries, they could sell as much as they produced. Now that their production had greatly increased, naturally their profits had greatly increased. In the final month, New Flyer had earned a net profit of 1,130,000 gold coins from the household magic machines. Whether it was compared to the beginning of the year or the same period last year, this was a large increase. At the end of the year, New Flyer's total profit for December had reached a shocking 2,430,000 gold coins. Calculating the total profit for the year, it easily broke the prediction of 20 million gold coins at the beginning of the year, reaching 2,670,000 gold coins. With such terrifying profits and shocking profits, it meant that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had become a first-class company in the surrounding countries, surpassing countless old companies. In terms of influence, New Flyer was even more outstanding. Whether it was the Lampari Kingdom that had a deep relationship with New Flyer, the Kingdom of Ruhr that had recently deepened their cooperation, the Drake Duchy, the Mirando Duchy, and the other small countries, or even the Sac Kingdom that had conflicts with New Flyer before, they all rushed to cooperate with New Flyer. Even if Su Yi didn't cause a stir in these countries with a stomp of his foot, at least the words he said right now were things that no one could ignore in these countries. Not to mention that New Flyer had a large influence on these countries with the magic machine industry. Just based on New Flyer itself, it was already a power that couldn't be ignored. Because of the conflict with Count Wine and the loss from the Sac Kingdom's sneak attack, Su Yi had greatly increased the investment in New Flyer's guards after stabilizing the situation in the Principality of Constantine. At the end of the year, the New Flyer's guards had gone from just over 2,000 people to over 6,000 people. Among the extra 4,000 people, there were 800 dwarven warriors, 1,500 beastmen warriors, and the rest were human warriors recruited from various places. As for the elven warriors, although there were quite a few elves from the Nightsong tribe and the Moon Shadow tribe that responded to the New Flyer's recruitment, they didn't join the New Flyer's guards. Rather, they joined Su Yi's subordinates, being considered Su Yi's personal guards. There weren't many elven warriors, only 300 of them, but because the elven warriors were known for their individual strength in the signs, to many people, they were much stronger than the 800 dwarven warriors and the 1,500 beastmen warriors. So just based on the warriors of various races that the New Flyer's guards had and Su Yi's 1,000 personal guards, the New Flyer had a strength that couldn't be ignored. And with the military magic machines that the New Flyer made, as well as the powerful understanding of these military magic machines that they had trained for a long time, their battle strength was naturally even more terrifying. In the surrounding countries there was a common understanding. Even if the New Flyer only sent out 1,000 guards, it would be enough to easily defeat 10,000 soldiers from the other countries. This was because the guards of the Xinfei merchants had already surpassed this era. They weren't on the same level as the armies of the other countries. But in Su Yi's eyes, this was far from enough. Everyone look, these red dots are the islands that the guard fleet has discovered on the endless seas that are worth developing. There are a total of 37 of them. In the conference room of the New Flight Commerce main base, Su Yi was standing in front of a giant wooden board, pointing at a giant map on it as he spoke. According to Leslie's report, these islands have all kinds of good mineral resources and rich magic materials, so they are worth developing. The most important thing is that these islands aren't under anyone's control. Heinz, who was sitting in the first seat on the right, laughed and said, "Of course. These islands are at least a few hundred kilometers away from the coast. Which country would be so bored as to come so far and develop them? Not mentioning anything else, just transporting people and goods is very risky, so the cost is too high." Su Yi nodded. "But this isn't a problem for us. Now that we have 5 large transport magic ships, we can easily transport people and goods to these islands. But we have a serious problem. which is that we don't have enough people. Everyone in the conference room looked at each other with helpless looks. Even if the company had been recruiting workers since last year, because of the strike, Sue-yi had fired 18,000 workers at once, causing the company to suffer heavy losses. Even now, they still hadn't been able to replenish their losses. The new flyer's production capacity had increased, and the most important reason was that Sanchali had made a breakthrough with the automatic production magic machines, which replaced many of the jobs that needed manpower. But there were many steps in the production of magic machines that couldn't be replaced by the automatic production magic machines, so the new flyer was still suffering from a lack of manpower. Moreover, the lack of manpower that Sue-yi mentioned wasn't just the workers, but also the guards. To develop on these islands that were several hundred kilometers away from the coast and over 1,000 kilometers away from the new flight commerce main base, it was necessary to arrange guards. But to arrange guards for 37 islands, even if they only arranged 100 guards on each island, they would need close to 4,000 guards. If they really arranged this, what about the defenses of the new flight commerce main base, the transport fleet, and the factories in other places? These places also needed large amounts of manpower and were indispensable. The manpower problem can't be solved in a short period of time, so for this situation, I've decided to use another method to solve it. Sue-yi continued. Everyone focused and looked at Sue-yi. Sir President's ideas would often be a little whimsical, making people feel that it was inconceivable. It would even make people wonder if he was crazy. However, it had been proven many times that his ideas would always have a good effect, and the final result would always be good. Since it isn't realistic to send enough guards to each island, then we'll give up on this idea. My plan is to set up defensive measures on these islands, but not to assign specific personnel to guard them. As for the main guards, they will be placed in the guard fleet. Although we currently have a guard fleet led by Leslie, that is far from enough. My request for the guard fleet is that they need to be able to control this sea area. Specifically, I want this sea area to become our new flyer's back garden. The final goal is to use this chain of islands and the guard fleet to control this sea area, turning this sea area into our new flyer's sea kingdom. Purring. Sue-yi slapped the map of the sea area on the wooden board, and the expressions of everyone in the conference room changed. Sir Chairman's ambition. Wasn't it a bit too big? Chapter 722. Whether Sue-yi's ambition was big or not, it wasn't a problem for the other people of the new flyer. It was even the opposite. The high-level members of the new flyer were more willing to know that their Sir Chairman had this kind of ambition. This was because, from another angle, ambition was also called having great ambitions. Compared to following a Sir Chairman who didn't have any ambition and only had goals in front of him, of course they wanted to follow a Sir Chairman who had great ambition and long-term goals. Only like this could the new flyer maintain its current situation and quickly develop. Not only would it become a first-class company in the surrounding countries, it would also become a first-class company in the signs. The stronger the new flyer became, the more shocking benefits the high-level members of the company would receive. Not to mention that even if they didn't consider benefits, just by following Sir Chairman and achieving the goal of spreading magic machines across the continent, wasn't that already enough to attract people's hearts? The last month of year 3875 quickly passed. After the New Year's, the new flyer began recruiting large amounts of workers again. This wasn't strange. The new flyer had been desperately recruiting workers in the past 2 years and had never relaxed their demand. But this time's recruitment was different from before. It was mainly focused on recruiting workers in the resource-gathering industry. Moreover, there was a very clear condition in the recruitment, which was that the workers had to be willing to leave their homes and work in places that were over 1,000 kilometers or even 2,000 kilometers away. At the same time, the new flyer stated that the initial conditions of this job would be very hard, so it wasn't easy to go home. They had to be able to endure the hardships and the loneliness. This requirement attracted the attention of many people because the new flyer had given their employees very good conditions, but now it was clear that this job was very hard, which was very strange. But these conditions, compared to the salary advertised in the newspapers, it didn't seem that important. At least 300 gold coins a year. Although this salary wasn't considered high in Banta City, whether it was in the Lampari Kingdom or the Kingdom of Roor, it was considered a high salary. It had to be known, since the new flyer fired 18,000 workers at once, it caused the other companies to compete for these workers, raising the average wage of the magic machine industry to a shocking level. But for normal workers, 20 gold coins a month was already considered quite a good income. Not to mention that although the new flyer's wage didn't have an absolute advantage over the other companies, their benefits far surpassed those of the other companies. According to what they said in private, working at the new flyer, even if they only received a wage of 10 gold coins a month, it was still better than receiving 20 gold coins a month at the other companies. Now that the new flyer was willing to give 300 gold coins a year, it didn't just break the rules of the new flyer, it would also affect the entire wage scale of the magic machine industry. Once the recruitment was announced, countless people flocked to the recruitment sites that the new flyer had set up in the surrounding countries. But after a month of the new year, the people that the new flyer had recruited were less than 2,000 people. It was far lower than the new flyer's initial expectations. This made Sui a bit disappointed and a bit confused. Although it was uncomfortable to work on an unknown island in the endless ocean that was 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers away from his hometown, it wasn't that hard to accept. There were over 20,000 people who came to apply, but only 2,000 people were willing to go in the end. It wasn't even a tenth, it really was too little. Moreover, even if there were 2,000 people, not all of them could go. As for the development of resources on the islands on the Endless Sea, as well as the Sea Area Control Plan, Sui attached great importance to it. Not only did the workers he sent have to be trustworthy, they also had to have special qualities. For example, they had to be able to endure loneliness, they had to have the ability to live normally on the islands with bad conditions, etc. According to Suyi's estimation, it would be considered good if a quarter of the 2,000 newly recruited people went to those islands. The real main force had to be selected from the old workers of the new flyer. But even if they were to be selected from the old workers, not many of them were willing to accept such a transfer. Of course, Sui could forcibly transfer them to those islands to work, but for the sake of stability, Sui wasn't willing to do so. It seems that the progress of this plan can only be delayed. Sui looked at the recruitment progress report that Kennard had given him and couldn't help but sigh. Kennard glanced at Sui and hesitated for a moment before saying in a deep voice, "Sir President, actually, if you are willing to raise the salary level in this area, such as from 300 gold coins to 400 gold coins per year, I think there won't be a problem in terms of manpower." No. Sui shook his head very straightforwardly. Setting this kind of salary is not only considering the overall salary level of our Chamber of Commerce, but also the salary level of the entire industry. If we set it too high, it will make it very difficult for the other chambers of commerce. Kennard smiled bitterly and shook his head. He really wanted to say that the other chambers of commerce that were also in the magic machine industry had never considered this point. They had always been using high salaries to poach people from New Flyer, so they didn't have to worry about it at all. But after working by Suyi's side for so long, Kennard understood Suyi's goal very well. He knew that Sui placed the most importance on the development of the entire industry, so he didn't mind letting New Flyer suffer a bit of loss. Moreover, Sui was right. Even if it was within New Flyer, if they suddenly set the salary of the overseas workers too high, it would definitely affect the internal salary level of the Chamber of Commerce and cause internal chaos. The current salary level of New Flyer was set after the mass layoffs, so it was clearly inappropriate to break it in less than a year. Sui was silent for a bit before saying with a smile, "All right, actually it's also good if I think about it. We can't rush the development of those islands. Not mentioning anything else, at least we don't have that many magic boats right now, right?" Kennard nodded, "Yes, Sir Chairman. We only have 8 large transport magic boats right now. It's not enough to support large amounts of sea transport. Other than that, although we have enough combat magic boats to support 2 fleets, we don't have enough training and personnel. It's too hard to control the large seas to the south of the continent." Then let's do this. We'll do it step by step. First we'll develop the islands outside the Principality of Constantine, and then we'll push our way to the southern seas. At the same time, we'll focus on recruiting people and building ships. We have to create a strong guard fleet as soon as possible. Kennard looked at Sui with a thoughtful look. "Viscount Leslie's fleet isn't enough?" "Of course." Sui didn't have any special expression. He just gave a nod and didn't explain anything. Although Leslie was now under the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guard fleet, leading the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guard fleet, Sui was very clear that Leslie wouldn't be under him for long. When the time was right, it was very likely that he would leave the New Flyer and establish his own fleet. The reason why Sui gave him command of the New Flyer guard fleet was 1, because of their relationship, and 2, because Leslie had this ability, as well as inheriting some resources from the Stag family. Now that he was leading the New Flyer guard fleet, it could be considered a cooperation between Sui and Leslie because both sides needed to accumulate experience in controlling fleet. Since the situation had changed, Sui and Kennard made some changes to the overall plan. Because before this, the New Flyer had already explored the seas around the Principality of Constantine and had done some preliminary research on the islands with resources, so this sea area was the starting point of this plan. According to Sui's plan, the Shinfei merchants would set up small bases on these islands and set up some defenses. Then they would connect these islands, and they would become the first defensive island chain outside the Principality of Constantine. If there was a situation like the Sac Kingdom and Count Wine colluding to attack the New Flyer, they would have to break the first island chain's defenses before they could threaten the New Flight Commerce main base. Following this, Sui's plan was to extend this first island chain to the southern seas of the Kingdom of Roer and then to the southern seas of the Kanla Empire. Finally, they would draw a semicircle in the southern seas of the Signs, surrounding the entire southern Signs. To achieve this goal, it was clear that it wasn't enough to develop islands with resources. They also needed to use islands with strategic significance. Like this, the investment for this plan would be shocking. Sui and Kennard gave a rough estimate. This plan would cost over 100 million gold coins. "All right, Sir Chairman, this plan can't be completed in a year or 2, we can only take it slow," Kennard said with a sigh. Sui revealed a smile. "Of course, I never thought that we could complete this plan in a short period of time. In short, we just need to work hard in this direction." Kennard also revealed a smile. When he was about to speak, there was a strong knock on the door. Kennard slightly knit his brows before saying in a low voice, "Come in." The door opened and the human secretary who was Kennard's assistant came in. He had a strange expression on his face as he looked over Kennard before looking at Sui. After swallowing a mouthful of saliva with difficulty, he said in a voice filled with panic, shock, and doubt, Sir Chairman, I just received news that Her Majesty 70 has officially announced that she is pregnant." Kennard opened his mouth in surprise, but he didn't say anything as he turned to look at Sui. Sui was stunned. He turned to look in the direction of Anvilmar City to the northeast, not saying a thing for a while. Chapter 723. When Her Majesty 70 announced that she was pregnant, it shocked everyone in the Lampari Kingdom and the surrounding countries. Although the Signs were more open than most countries on Earth, they weren't that tolerant of being pregnant before marriage. Not to mention that the one who was pregnant before marriage was actually Her Majesty of the Lampari Kingdom. What was even more shocking was that when Her Majesty 70 announced that she was pregnant, she was already 8 months pregnant. Being pregnant for 10 months meant that she was 8 months pregnant. Didn't that mean that she was only 2 months away from giving birth to the child? With the current situation in the Lampari Kingdom, even if this was a large scandal, no one dared to have Her Majesty 70 abort the child. First, since Her Majesty was pregnant and had announced this scandal was already set, so there was no meaning in aborting the child. Second, based on the current situation in the Lampari Kingdom, it was clear that only Her Majesty 70's child had the right to take the throne and no one else in the royal family could do it. Before this, there were many people who secretly told Her Majesty that they hoped that she could solve her marriage matter as soon as possible and give birth to a child, confirming the next successor of the Lampari Kingdom. Although Her Majesty suddenly announced that she was pregnant and created a scandal, looking at it from another angle, it fulfilled the wishes of many people. Her Majesty was finally going to have a child. The difference between the Queen and the King was that the Queen was a woman after all. She gave birth to her own child, and there was no male at all. The King was worried about whether the child was his or not. As long as she gave birth to it, it was naturally her child. So not long after Her Majesty 70 announced that she was pregnant, all the newspapers in the Lampari Kingdom began to report on this matter. They began to announce this with great fanfare, saying that this was a happy matter. The successor of the Lampari Kingdom could finally be confirmed. Wasn't this worth being happy about? As for who the father of the child was, that wasn't important at all right. Hey, 70's public relations crisis seems to be quite good. Sue threw down the Lampari Weekly in his hand and looked at Steele, who was rubbing her stomach with a smile. After being fooled by these newspapers, even I feel that it isn't important who the father of the child in 70's stomach is. Steele looked at Sue with a deep look in her eyes as she softly asked, "You really don't care about this?" Sue shook his head. "It would be a lie to say that I don't care since 70 is my friend. But this is her own choice and as a friend, I should fully support her at this time and not care about anything else. Other than that." Sue came to Steele's side and put his hand on Steele's stomach as he said with a smile, "Compared to caring about who the father of the child in 70's stomach is, I care more about the child in this stomach because its father is no one else but me." Steele looked at Sue's hand softly stroking her belly and suddenly gave a sigh. After hesitating a bit, she didn't say the words that were at the tip of her tongue. After pausing, she changed her words. "Speaking of this, Sue, do you want this child to be a boy or a girl?" Sue gave a shrug. "It doesn't matter, whether it's a boy or a girl, I like them both. But since she already has Freya, I feel that it's better to give her a little brother. One boy and one girl, that way she'll have both a son and a daughter. This isn't a problem, right? Liz and Linda have already given birth to 2 little brothers for her, she doesn't lack any." Sue laughed. In the 2 years after Freya was born, because Steele, Liz, and Linda didn't have any movements, he had doubted his fertility. But then Liz and Linda got pregnant at the same time and gave birth to 2 children 2 months ago, which were both boys. Now that Steele was found to be pregnant, it meant that there was no problem with his fertility. The previous 2 years were just an accident. That's right. Alright, Steele, you can give birth to a little sister for Freya this time. I think she will like it very much," Sue said with a smile. Steele was silent for a bit before shaking her head. "No, I still want to give birth to a boy. Although Freya already has 2 little brothers, I didn't give birth to them, right?" Sue looked up at Steele. Although he had expressed his stance to Steele many times and had already confirmed Freya's identity as the first successor, Steele still couldn't let it go. Moreover, after Liz and Linda gave birth to 2 boys, Steele seemed to be even more persistent in this aspect. Sue felt that it was very strange sometimes. Normally speaking, the difference between men and women wasn't that serious in signs. Even 70 could inherit the Lampari kingdom's throne without any hindrance, so why did Steel want to give birth to a son for him? But Sui never argued with Steel on this aspect. He knew that although Steel had a generous personality, she was still a woman in the end, so it wasn't strange for her to be conflicted in small matters. So Sui just said with a smile, "All right, I think that no matter what, Freya will be happy. Of course, I'm the same." Steel gave a slight nod before revealing a tired look. Sui immediately clapped his hands and Betty came in. "Sir, do you have any orders?" After Betty and Carol were brought back to the Principality of Constantine by Sui didn't have them continue being maids, but the two of them took the initiative to accept this responsibility. In many ways, she was quite similar to Liz and Linda. "Steel is tired, help her rest," Sui said. Betty agreed and wanted to help Steel, but Steel waved her hand and refused. "No need, I'll just rest here for a bit. I have guests coming in a bit, so I have to entertain them." "Guests? People from the Doran song and dance troupe? They're here this quickly?" Sui asked. They were very interested in my plan. They told me a week ago that they would be back today, so I think they should be here by now. It's like this." Sui looked at Steel's stomach, but he didn't force her to rest. He turned to Betty and said, "All right, Betty, help me take care of Steel here. Steel, don't tire yourself out. You just got pregnant, so you need to rest." Steel revealed a faint smile. "Relax, it's not my first time pregnant. I know how to pay attention." Sui looked up at the magic seed on the wall before continuing, "I should go and see how Akali and the others are doing. When I come back tonight, tell me about your discussion with the Doran song and dance troupe. Perhaps I can give you some ideas." "Got it, you can go." Steel nodded. Sui said a few more things to Betty before standing up to leave. When he came out of the manor, he saw a medium passenger magic car quickly coming out of the manor, stopping right outside the manor. Sui stopped walking out and saw 7 or 8 people get out of the magic car. Other than 3 middle-aged men who looked like smart merchants, the others were all young and beautiful human girls. After they got out, they came over to Sui. The 3 middle-aged men who looked like merchants reached their hands out to Sui from afar with smiles on their faces. "You must be Chairman Su, right? It really is our honor to meet you." The fat middle-aged man had a flattering smile as he took Sui's hands and shook them. "Let me introduce myself. I am the Doran Chamber of Commerce's chairman Varen Randolph, and these 2 are my assistants." The other 2 middle-aged men also reached their hands out to Sui. They also had warm smiles on their faces as they introduced themselves. Sui nodded to the 2 of them with a smile before his eyes fell onto the beautiful human girls behind them. Chairman Randolph pointed at them and said with a smile, "They are the most beautiful girls in our Doran song and dance troupe. Whether it is dancing, singing, or playing, they are all the best. Chairman Su, what do you think of them?" Those human girls had their eyes on Sui the entire time. When they saw him look over, they all showed their most perfect poses as they stared at Sui without blinking. Their eyes were filled with passion, not hiding their interest in Sui at all. Sui didn't have any special reaction, he just nodded lightly. "They are all very good. However, President Randolph, the requirements for the actors in the illusion film are not based on their appearance or talent, but on their acting skills. Steele will tell you in detail later, so I won't say much." Yes, we will definitely listen to Madame Steele's arrangements. We will do whatever she says. Chairman Su, you can rest assured that since you are willing to give this opportunity to our Doran Chamber of Commerce, we will definitely do our best. Sui smiled and shook his head. "No, this opportunity is not given by me, but by Steele. Regarding this matter, it is all handled by Steele and her New Moon Chamber of Commerce. I will not interfere." Chairman Randolph laughed. "Chairman Su, you must be joking. Madame Steele is your father, Her matters are your matters. Sui shook his head and was too lazy to explain. He pointed to the manor. All right, Steele is waiting for you, go in. I still have other things to take care of, so I can't accompany you. President Randolph hurriedly waved his hand and stepped aside to make way. Chairman Sue, you can do your own things, you don't need to pay attention to us. Sui nodded and left. After walking for a while, he turned around and saw that Randolph and the others had already entered the manor. He couldn't help but frown. The Doran Song and Dance Troupe could be said to be the most famous troupe in the Lampari Kingdom, so it was normal for Steele to find them first when looking for a partner. But after a short contact, Sui didn't have any good impression of them. Even the beautiful human girls gave him a vulgar feeling, they didn't leave a good first impression. But after thinking about it, Sui felt that he was being too picky. In terms of vulgarity, the entertainment industry on Earth was much more vulgar than these people, but that didn't stop them from creating programs that could entertain people. It didn't matter if they were vulgar or not in Sui's opinion, as long as they could meet Steele's requirements, it was fine. In the end, it didn't have much to do with him. Thinking of this, Sui smiled and shook his head. He turned around and walked towards a tall steeple in the distance. Chapter 724. When the tower was still far away, he already felt that it was very tall. When he got closer, he found that this tower was made of steel from top to bottom and was more than 20 meters above the ground. He had to raise his head to see the top of the tower. The base of this iron tower alone took up more than 100 square meters. Combined with this height, it was very eye-catching standing on this piece of land. Sui walked near the base of the iron tower and saw a group of people wearing the uniform of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce busy below. When he was about to greet them, he suddenly heard a childish shout from the crowd. "No! I want to go up! I want to go up!" Sui was startled. He immediately recognized that this was Freya's voice. Sure enough, Akali's helpless voice came from the crowd. "Freya, it's too high up. It's very dangerous. If you go up, I'm afraid of scaring you." "I'm not scared. With Auntie Akali here, there won't be any danger. But it's too high. There's also a lot of wind up there. You'll be cold." "I won't. Auntie Akali is a magician. You'll protect me, right?" Akali was even more helpless. "But I have a job." Freya was silent for a while, then suddenly shouted, "Humph! Dad has a job, Mom has a job, Auntie Akali also has a job. You all don't play with me. You all don't want me anymore." At the beginning, Freya's voice was still full of anger. Later on, it turned into a sobbing tone. Sui, who originally wanted to eavesdrop on how Freya and Akali conversed, could no longer stay at the side. He coughed heavily and showed himself. "Freya, what are you doing here?" Hearing Sui's voice, everyone's eyes focused on him. Freya's sobbing voice also stopped. She came out from the gap made by the crowd. When she saw Sui, her wrinkled face immediately became a brilliant smile, and she flew over. "Daddy." Sui picked her up and looked at the tears in her eyes. A trace of guilt flashed through his heart. He said softly, "Freya, why did you come here? Why don't you stay at home and play with your brothers?" "My little brothers don't know how to talk. I don't want to play with them." Freya pouted. "It's not fun at home, so I asked Aunt Carol to bring me out." Sui turned around and saw Carol in the crowd. He nodded and carried Freya to Akali's side. Akali shrugged helplessly at Sui. "Chairman, Freya insists on going to the signal tower to take a look. I don't dare to agree." Sui smiled and asked Freya, "Freya, why do you want to go up?" "Because it's very high," Freya answered confidently. "I like places that are high. Daddy, Aunt Akali won't bring me up. Can you bring me up?" Looking at Freya's pleading eyes, Sui couldn't refuse and could only nod. Freya cheered and then turned around to wave her little fist at Akali. Her little face was full of pride. Akali could only smile bitterly. Okay, Freya, play with Aunt Carol for a while. I have some things to discuss with Aunt Akali. I'll bring you up after that. Freya nodded and slid down Suyi's body to the ground. She quickly ran to Carol's side and stood there obediently, looking at Suyi expectantly. Seeing her like this, Akali couldn't help but burst into laughter. Sir President, every time I see Freya, I think that it's time for me to have a child. If I can have a child as cute as Freya, I'll be so happy every day. Suyi laughed. That's because you haven't seen how Freya gives you a headache. Oh no, didn't you just experience it once? What? You still think she's cute? Of course, Akali said with a smile. For a child as cute as Freya, I won't be annoyed no matter how much she whines. Besides, Freya is already very obedient. I've never seen her cry unreasonably. That's because Steel and I taught her well. Suyi chuckled and praised himself without holding back. But Akali, if you want to have a child, you have to get married first. Who said that? Akali rolled her eyes at Suyi. Didn't you see that Her Majesty has a child before getting married? I want to learn from her. Suyi couldn't help rolling his eyes. Seveni's pregnancy before getting married didn't have any other effects, but it gave the girls of the surrounding countries a lesson. That's right, even Her Majesty could do it, so of course they could too. Suyi looked at the proud Akali, and after thinking about it, he gave up saying, "You have to find a man if you want to have a child." He looked up at the iron tower in the sky and asked, "All right, I won't joke around anymore. Tell me, how is the signal tower?" Hearing Suyi ask about work, Akali stopped joking around, but she looked even more excited. Very good. Akali gave Suyi a thumbs up. Sir Chairman, your idea is simply too good. Why didn't I think of using this signal tower as a relay station for the magic array's resonance and extending the range of the signal? Now that this signal tower has been built, we can expand the range of the magic array's resonance and solve the problem of the small resonance range. Suyi revealed a faint smile, thinking that this was actually the same principle as the radio signal towers on Earth. When he gave this suggestion to Akali, Suyi was just trying it out, but he never thought that Akali would lead her team to complete the theoretical research in less than 4 months. She also worked with the research center to solve the practical application problem in just 3 months, building this signal tower. Now, there was a magic array on this signal tower that was used to transmit and resonate mana wave signals. Through this magic array, the mana waves generated by another magic array within 5,000 meters could be relayed and transmitted through this transmission signal tower. As a result, the range of the mana waves was directly expanded from the previous maximum of 5,000 meters to 10,000 meters, which was a full doubling of the original range. Moreover, the most important significance of this research center was that this signal tower could be transmitted continuously, just like the radio signal towers on Earth. In other words, as long as another magic array was set up 5,000 meters away, the magic array could continue to transmit the magic array. In theory, the magic array's resonance could transmit the magic array to an infinite distance. Of course, it's impossible to transmit it infinitely. Akali waved her hand. The magic array will be affected by various factors during the transmission process and will suffer a certain amount of loss. If the distance is too long, it will gradually weaken until it completely disappears. It's impossible to maintain the original state. Then, have you made any progress in your research on reducing the loss of magic array? Suyi asked. Akali smiled bitterly and shook her head. There hasn't been much progress in this area. Don't be discouraged. Suyi patted Akali's shoulder. Look, you were able to increase the magic array's maximum transmission range from a few hundred meters to more than 5,000 meters through your research. This proves that there is a way to achieve this. You can put in a lot of effort into this research. The Chamber of Commerce will fully support you. The Chamber of Commerce's support? Aren't you the one supporting us, Mr. President? Akali asked. Nonsense, of course I'll fully support you. Sui glared at Akali and extended his hand to Akali. Come, give it to me. I'll try it out. Akali giggled and took out a magic communicator and handed it to Sui. Sui looked around and activated the magic array in his body. His figure instantly broke through the void. When he reappeared, he was already about 4,000 meters to the west of the tower. After confirming the location, Sui pressed on the magic communicator, cleared his throat, and spoke into the magic communicator. Hello, this is Sui. Please answer if you can hear me. A moment later, there was a burst of noise from the magic communicator. Then, a loud and obviously excited voice sounded. It's Mr. President. Mr. President, this is Samro. Can you hear me? This is the street outside the Yodel restaurant. We're talking to you here. Sui looked up to the east. The Yodel restaurant was the largest restaurant in the residential area of the New Flight Commerce main base. It was 8 kilometers away in a straight line. If it was the previous magic communicator, this distance would be far beyond the range of the communication. Okay, I hear you. You can continue with your experiment. Sui replied and turned off the magic communicator. His figure flashed and broke through the void again. This time, he returned to the bottom of the signal tower. How is it? Mr. President, did you receive the signal? Is it clear enough? Akali asked as soon as she saw Sui appear. Yes, I can hear it, but it's not very clear, Sui replied. But it's already very good. Akali, continue to cooperate with the R&D Center. As long as your research can keep up, I plan to set up signal towers everywhere in the Principality of Constantine. We'll strive to be able to communicate with each other everywhere in the Principality. Yes, that's also my goal. Akali nodded vigorously. She then said worriedly, But Mr. President, just this signal tower alone used up more than 10 tons of high-quality steel. In addition to the other expenses, we've spent a total of tens of thousands of gold coins. If we want to achieve this goal in the Principality, I estimate that we'll need to set up at least 400 signal towers. That'll cost about 5 million gold coins. Money isn't a problem. Sui waved his hand, looking rather heroic. This is the #1 goal that our Chamber of Commerce has to achieve in the next 2 years. You don't have to worry about funding. In short, I'll fully support you. Is that so? Akali was still a little doubtful. Although the Chamber of Commerce had made a lot of money this year, there were still many areas to spend money on. Just this project alone would cost 4 million gold coins. What about the other areas? But after thinking about it, Akali felt relieved. It was up to the president to decide on the direction of investment. It had nothing to do with her. Moreover, how could the president make a mistake? Thinking of this, Akali narrowed her eyes and smiled. Freya saw that Sui and Akali had stopped talking. She suddenly opened Carol's eyes and ran to Sui's side. Father, are you done talking to Aunt Akali? Can you bring me up to play? Sui smiled and bent down to pick her up. Okay, Father will bring you up to play now. Sui raised his hand and a wind shield protected Freya. Then he tapped his feet and slowly flew up with Freya. Chapter 725. The light golden magic sedan charged out of the border between the Kingdom of Ruhr and the Principality of Constantine, going down the long slope of the strew road from the cliff. Seeing the tall trees on both sides of the road, leaving only the trees in the open view, Ambassador Hakkinen couldn't help giving a sigh. This wasn't his first time coming to the Principality of Constantine from the Kingdom of Ruhr, but every time he went down this road, he always felt that it was a bit of a pity. If the new flyer had made this road a bit longer when they were laying down the strew road, he could have enjoyed the pleasure of driving through the clouds a bit more. But thinking of how he was about to reach the new flyer and see Chairman Su again, as well as receiving a large amount of benefits from him, Ambassador Hakkinen threw this bit of regret to the back of his head. He increased the speed of the magic sedan by a bit. Very soon, the magic sedan entered the slight dream forest. The road that was a bit dark, because of the trees, had rows of bright magic lamps hanging on both sides. It formed a conspicuous belt of light in the slight dream forest, guiding the magic sedan forward. Ambassador Hakkinen looked at the magic lamps on both sides of the road, and was a bit confused. When he came here before, he didn't think of this problem. But seeing these magic lamps again, he couldn't help having a question. There were probably more than 2,000 magic lamps on this stretch of road. Even the cheapest magic lamp would cost more than 3,000 gold coins to make. This didn't include the daily maintenance of these magic lamps. Since it was like this, why didn't the new flyer cut down the trees on both sides of the road when they were laying down the strew road? As long as there was a gap and sunlight came in, this road didn't need the magic lamps at all. Chairman Su didn't do this. Could it be that he wanted this road to have a more dreamy feeling? When I see Chairman Su later, I have to ask him. Ambassador Hakkinen secretly made his decision. Viscount Hakkinen, how much longer will it take? There was a deep male voice that came from the magic sedan. Hearing this voice, Ambassador Hakkinen quickly stopped his wild thoughts. He looked at the serious middle-aged man sitting in the back of the magic sedan through the rearview mirror, and a warm smile appeared on his chubby face. We'll be at New Moon Town in another half an hour. I've already arranged to meet the new Flyer's CEO Kennard there. New Moon Town? Why isn't there any information about this town on the map? Oh, this New Moon Town is a new town that New Flyer built last year, so it isn't on the map. Oh? What is New Flyer building this town for? Is this town under the jurisdiction of the Fresteck Chamber of Commerce or the Stantine Duchy? The middle-aged man had a serious look on his face in the rearview mirror. Sui nodded. According to what the Fresteck Chamber of Commerce's chairman Sui said, this town was built to attract people and to try building a new modern town. Town? What does that mean? Ambassador Hakkinen shook his head. Although Chairman Su has explained it to me before, I don't understand. Is that so? After the middle-aged man asked this, he fell silent. Ambassador Hakkinen also closed his mouth and focused on driving. He didn't directly drive out of the slight dream forest. Rather, he drove to the Shinfei's magic refill station that he had visited with Kennard when he first came to the Principality of Constantine. After explaining the use of this magic refill station to the middle-aged man and the other two people, Ambassador Hakkinen brought them to the toilet that he thought was very advanced for them to experience. Seeing the three of them being surprised by the automatic washing function of the toilet and the drying function of the magic dryer, Ambassador Hakkinen felt a strange satisfaction in his heart. These three fellows stayed in the Canla Empire all day, thinking that the Canla Empire was number one in the world. Now that they were here to see the world, they knew how shallow their knowledge was before. After resting for a bit, when they were about to set off again, there was a pure black magic sedan that came from the Principality of Constantine that came to the magic refill station. When Ambassador Hakkinen felt that this magic sedan was a bit familiar, he saw Kennard come out of the car. Kennard came over to Ambassador Hakkinen and looked over the other three people who came with Ambassador Hakkinen. His eyes paused on the middle-aged man before he said to Ambassador Hakkinen with a smile, "Ambassador Hakkinen, it really has been hard on you to come all the way here. I represent the new flyer to give you a warm welcome." Ambassador Hakkinen nodded before asking in a doubtful voice, "Executive Officer Kennard, didn't you agree to meet in New Moon Town? Why did you come here first? This kind of warmth really makes me feel flattered." Kennard laughed before shaking his head. "You're mistaken, I was planning on waiting for you in New Moon Town, but now the plan has changed. Sir Chairman has decided to personally come to New Moon Town, so he sent me to greet you ahead of time and bring you to meet Sir Chairman." "This means that Chairman Su is in New Moon Town right now?" "Yes." Ambassador Hakkinen was shocked. He turned around and looked like he couldn't wait as he said to the middle-aged man, "Sir Russell, Chairman Sue isn't far away, let's quickly go see him." The middle-aged man called Sir Russell revealed a faint smile. "Viscount Hakkinen, you seem to be looking forward to meeting Chairman Sue." This. Ambassador Hakkinen knew that he was too anxious, so he said with an awkward smile, "Chairman Sue is a very outstanding person. Every time I meet him, I gain many inspirations and even gain many new understandings of this world, so I'm always looking forward to meeting him." "Oh." Sir Russell revealed a smile as a look of disdain flashed in his eyes. This Hakkinen didn't have any abilities. He only knew how to rely on his big sister being the Emperor's favorite concubine to be greedy. Now that he was praising Chairman Sue like this, it was probably because he had been fed too much by the new flyer. Thinking of this, Sir Russell looked at Kennard with a cold look in his eyes. Kennard acted like he didn't notice Sir Russell's gaze at all. He took out a rectangular metal box from his chest and gave it to Ambassador Hakkinen. "Ambassador Hakkinen, Sir Chairman wants to talk to you first and also greet these sirs." Ambassador Hakkinen nodded. He took the metal box in front of the surprised gazes of Russell's group of 3. When he was about to press the button on the box, he was suddenly stunned. "Kennard, this place is this far from New Moon Town, there shouldn't be a way to talk, right?" Kennard made an inviting gesture with a smile. Ambassador Hakkinen doubtfully pressed the button. After hesitating a bit, he shouted into the metal box, "Hello? Is this Chairman Sue? I am Hakkinen, can you hear me?" After a while, there was a bright young man's laughter that came from the metal box. "Ha ha, Ambassador Hakkinen, hello, I am Sue. Welcome to the Principality of Constantine again. I represent the entire new flyer in welcoming you and Sir Russell's group of 3. Ambassador Hakkinen's expression was a bit surprised. He couldn't help looking in the direction of New Moon Town to the west. This place was at least 30 kilometers away from New Moon Town, and Sue had personally told him that the magic communicator developed by New Flyer had a maximum range of 4,000 meters. Then why was he able to talk to Sue through the magic communicator? Could it be that Sue was lying to him before? Or could it be that Sue was nearby and Kennard was lying to him? Compared to Ambassador Hakkinen's surprise, Russell's group of 3 was completely shocked. When they saw Kennard take out this metal box that didn't seem special and say that Sue wanted to talk to Hakkinen, they were only filled with doubt. But when they heard that there was a voice coming from the metal box and that it had a complete conversation with Hakkinen, the 3 of them couldn't help revealing looks of disbelief. What was this metal box? It was actually this mysterious. Sir Russell thought about it before coming forward to reach his hand out to Ambassador Hakkinen. Ambassador Hakkinen understood and respectfully placed the magic communicator in his hand. Then he gestured for him to speak into the magic communicator. Sir Russell looked at the magic communicator and paused before saying with a bit of hesitation, "Hey, hello. May I ask if you are the new flyer's Sue Chairman Sue?" "I am the Vice Chief of Staff of the Canla Empire's Navy Department, Remito Russell. This is our first time meeting. This is our first time talking to you. I'm very happy." The magic communicator's voice sounded again. "Hello, Sir Russell, I am Sue. Right now, as the chairman, I represent the new flyer to give you a warm welcome. I have already sent the company's CEO, Kennard, to ask you to come to New Moon Town with him. I have already prepared a sumptuous lunch. I'm looking forward to having lunch with you." Russell nodded. "All right, I'll be right there." "All right, I'm looking forward to your and Ambassador Hakkinen's arrival." As soon as Sue's voice fell, the magic communicator flashed with a red light before falling silent. Russell looked at the magic communicator in his hand before looking at Kennard. After hesitating a bit, he finally gave the magic communicator back. Kennard didn't reach out to take it, rather he said with a smile, "Sir Russell, this magic communicator is my first small gift for you. With this magic communicator, you can talk to Sir Chairman anywhere around here. I think that in the next few days it will be much more convenient for you. As for how to use it, you can ask Ambassador Hakkinen. Is that so? Russell hesitated a bit, but he didn't decline. He directly threw the magic communicator to a follower on his right. Ambassador Hakkinen looked at the two followers carefully holding the magic communicator with curious looks, and he couldn't help secretly laughing in his heart. Hey, these two country bumpkins from the Kanla Empire. Chapter 726. The superiority in Ambassador Hakkinen's heart reached its peak when he followed Kennard to New Moon Town. When they saw the several dozen-meter-tall buildings in New Moon Town in the distance, Russell's two followers were very surprised. After entering New Moon Town, they were still very surprised when they saw the neatly arranged houses and the clean, wide, and flat road. After walking a bit, they saw the red, yellow, and green traffic lights at the intersection, and the two were surprised again. Then they saw all kinds of magic cars on the road, and they were very surprised. In short, when they approached New Moon Town, the two of them revealed looks of surprise no matter what they saw. This made Ambassador Hakkinen look down on them in his heart. They were simply two country bumpkins who had never seen the world, so his heart was filled with a sense of superiority. But he had forgotten that he also came from the Kanla Empire. Moreover, when he came here for the first time, his appearance wasn't that much better than these two followers. Russell had been very calm the entire time. Although when he looked around, his eyes revealed a look of surprise, overall he was still quite calm. But when they arrived at the tallest and most conspicuous building in the center of New Moon Town with Kennard's lead, there was a small iron monster that slowly came down and stopped in front of them. Even Russell couldn't help revealing a look of shock. What is this thing? Russell pointed at the strange thing in front of him that was made of some unknown metal that was covered in a silver glow as he asked this to Kennard. Sir Russell, this is our company's newly developed small magic airship. It was specially sent by Sir Chairman to bring you up for a meal, please. Kennard came to the side of the small magic airship and reached out his hand in an inviting gesture. Russell hesitated a bit before giving a nod and walking over. Ambassador Hakkinen and his two followers were surprised before quickly following him. This small magic airship was only 3 times the size of their magic sedan from the outside, but the space inside was very big. It was very spacious even after the 5 of them went in. Before Russell's group could look around, they felt a tremor under their feet. They felt that they were slowly being lifted into the air by this small magic airship. Astonishment flashed across Russell's face once again. Although when he heard the name, small magic airship, he had already guessed the use of this thing, when he actually sat in it and flew into the air, he couldn't help being shocked. Before this, only the elves and the legendary halflings had the ability to carry people into the sky. After the disappearance of the halflings and the decline of the elves, this kind of tool became something that only existed in legends. He never thought that new flyer would be able to make this kind of magic machine. Moreover, based on his experience, this small magic airship was very stable, so it could be seen that New Flyer's technology was very mature. Thinking of the purpose of his trip, Russell began to plan. Maybe we should talk more when we see Sui later? The small magic airship didn't give Russell much time to think. In just half a minute, Russell's group felt a tremble under their feet as the small magic airship stopped in the air. Then it drifted towards the tall building before sinking down a bit and stopping. The cabin door slowly opened and Kennard made an inviting gesture again. Russell calmed himself and walked out first. Sir Russell, welcome, welcome. There was a clear laugh that came from in front of him. Russell could instantly tell that this was the voice he had heard through the magic communicator. Looking up, he saw a young man who looked a little too young. No matter how he looked at it, he was at most 30 years old. The young man greeted him with a warm smile. Russell reached out his hand to shake his hand before saying with a nod, "Chairman Su, it's my honor to meet you for the first time." Sui laughed, Sir Russell's praise is too much. Being able to meet the Lord General of the Canla Empire, and having the chance to have lunch with you, this is my honor. Ambassador Hakkinen and his 2 followers came down with Kennard. Ambassador Hakkinen was planning on giving Sue-E a warm hug, but he gave up after looking at Russell. After Sue-E greeted them, he invited them to a table and prepared to have lunch together. The place Sue-E chose was very special. It was an open-air restaurant built on the top floor of the Amrit Hotel in New Moon Town. Through the glass, one could clearly see that they were high up in the sky. Even the people on the ground below had turned into black dots that couldn't be seen at all. Whether it was Ambassador Hakkinen, his 2 followers, or even Russell, this was their first time eating at such a high place. They couldn't help looking outside in surprise. Chairman Sue, such a tall building, how did your new flyer build it? Russell couldn't help asking. No, this building wasn't built by our company. Sue-E shook his head with a smile. Russell was stunned. It wasn't built by your new flyer? Then which company has this kind of special power? Hearing Russell use power to describe it, Sue-E couldn't help smiling. This building is called the Amrit Hotel, so of course it was built by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. Moreover, not only this hotel, all the high-rise buildings in New Moon Town that you see are all built by the Amrit Chamber of Commerce. It can even be said that this entire New Moon Town was built by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. Our new flyer is only responsible for paying for it. Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce? Russell narrowed his eyes. After pausing for a bit, he said in a thoughtful voice, "If I remember correctly, the one who came to our Canla Empire last year to lay down roads was this Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce?" "That's right, it's them." Sue-E nodded. "It's like this." Russell nodded and fell silent. Seeing that the atmosphere at the table was a bit heavy, Ambassador Hakkinen gave a soft cough and said to Russell, "Sir Russell, this time you came with me from the Kingdom of Roer and we walked on the road. Don't you feel that? This road is much better than any dirt road in our empire?" Russell looked at him and softly said, "Of course I can feel it." After thinking for a bit, he turned to Sue-E and said, "Chairman Sue, looking at it like this Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce should be very strong, so why haven't I heard of it before?" Sue-E revealed a faint smile, because a few years ago, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was just a small company in the Lampari Kingdom's Banta city, so naturally you wouldn't have heard of it. Just like your new flyer? Russell looked at Sue-E and asked this. Sue-E nodded with a faint smile, yes. Russell's right hand on the table unconsciously patted twice before he suddenly said to Sue-E with a serious look, "Chairman Sue, I think you should understand why I came to see you." Sue-E put down the knife and fork in his hand. He crossed his hands and looked at Russell, but his expression was still relaxed as he said with a slight nod, "If my guesses aren't wrong, Sir Russell should be here because of the misunderstanding between our company's guard fleet and your country's third fleet. It can be said like this, but it isn't completely correct." Russell looked at Sue-E before his face sunk. "Chairman Sue, your new flyer guard fleet actually ignored the warning of our Empire's navy and even tried to attack while escaping. This is clearly a provocation to our Empire's navy and also a provocation to our Canla Empire. Do you have any explanation for this matter?" Sue-E gave a shrug and said with a relaxed look, "Sir Russell, I just said that this was a misunderstanding. Our company didn't have any thoughts of provoking the Empire's navy and didn't have any intentions of offending the Canla Empire." "Then why did you run away? You even attacked the Empire's navy while escaping?" Russell asked with a sunken look. Sue-E shook his head. "That's why I said it was a misunderstanding. We chose to escape so that we wouldn't clash with the Empire's navy. As for attacking, we just hoped that the Empire's navy wouldn't chase us. We didn't really plan on attacking. After all, we didn't attack any of the Empire's navy ships, right?" Russell knit his brows. Thinking of the situation described in the Third Fleet's report, he couldn't help giving a cold snort. Sui made it sound nice, but the truth was that the Empire's Third Fleet couldn't catch up to the new Flyers' escort fleet. Even if they could catch up, they wouldn't dare to. The report described the new Flyers' escort fleet's attack power as extremely shocking. According to the deputy commander of the Third Fleet, Candor, if they had rashly chased after them, the entire fleet might have been wiped out. This conclusion caused an uproar within the Canla Empire's military. No one believed Candor's words. Everyone thought that Candor was trying to cover up his negligence and deliberately exaggerating the new Flyers' escort fleet's ability. This was because no one believed that the Third Fleet of the Imperial Navy would be completely annihilated by a few small boats that were used as guards by a mere merchant guild. Candor was stripped of all his military positions because of this matter and the ridiculous report he submitted at that time. This matter was also sealed in the military's archives because it would affect the Empire's Navy's image if it was made public. If it wasn't for the fact that Russell had a private meeting with Candor during New Year's and heard him mention this matter would have been suppressed like this. After this, Russell had heard that Ambassador Hakkinen had been in contact with the unknown Frestec Chamber of Commerce on the west side of the continent, so he had him bring him here to investigate the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. Candor was already drunk when he told Russell about this matter, so it was impossible for him to lie. He firmly believed that the new Flyers Guard fleet was very strong and couldn't resist at all. So even if Russell didn't believe it, he still wanted to investigate. Russell was filled with doubts at first, but after coming to the Principality of Constantine and seeing these strange scenes, the doubts in his heart gradually decreased. When he boarded the small magic airship, the doubts in his heart were almost confirmed. This new flyer, it was very likely that there was something special about it that people couldn't imagine. Candor's claim that it was like a fleet from another world was probably true. Chapter 727. Sui was a bit disappointed. When he learned from Ambassador Hakkinen that the Canla Empire's army headquarters would send someone to the Principality of Constantine to inspect the new flyer, Sui was very happy. He thought that his hard work had finally paid off and the Canla Empire was finally paying attention to the new flyer. Moreover, Sir Russell, who came with Ambassador Hakkinen, was the Vice Chief of Staff of the Canla Empire's Navy. Whether it was his status, position, it all fit Sui's expectations. It made Sui think that sending this person represented the attitude of the Canla Empire. It wasn't too high profile, but it wasn't underestimated either. Sui thought that with his contact with Russell this time, the Canla Empire would pay more attention to the new flyer. At the same time, they would pay more attention to it and open a window for cooperation between the new flyer and the Canla Empire, allowing the new flyer to smoothly enter the Canla Empire's large market. However, after being in close contact with Russell, Sui found that his thoughts were too simple. Although Sir Russell was a high-level member of the Canla Empire's navy, this time, he didn't carry any official will from the Canla Empire. He didn't even represent the Canla Empire's navy and army, he came with his own identity. According to what Russell said, the reason why he came to the Principality of Constantine to inspect the new flyer was purely to see the new flyer's guard fleet and didn't have any other goals. Sui was naturally disappointed by this result, but thinking about it, he felt that this was the most normal thing. The Canla Empire was one of the two largest empires in the Signs. Even small countries like the Lampari Kingdom and the Kingdom of Ruhr were not worth mentioning in their eyes, let alone a small merchant guild in the Principality of Constantine. The reason why the new flyer could arouse Russell's personal curiosity and interest was entirely because the new flyer's escort fleet had displayed some peculiarities in the conflict with the Canla Empire's Third Fleet. If it wasn't for the fact that he had his suspicions about this matter, even Russell wouldn't have thought of investigating this matter. In that case, this matter might have been suppressed within the Kanla Empire's military headquarters and treated as if nothing had happened. Su-Yi was very clear that even if the new flyer had great influence in the nearby countries, it would definitely not be placed in the eyes of the Kanla Empire. Therefore, it would not be swayed by Russell's attitude. However, through this incident, a problem was also reflected. The Kanla Empire's military headquarters didn't attach any importance to this matter. It could be seen that they had already lost their vigilance. Otherwise, with the new flyer's escort fleet displaying these peculiarities under Su-Yi's instructions, the Kanla Empire's military headquarters would have attached importance to this matter no matter what. The current facts were that, if it wasn't for Russell being curious about this matter, the new flyer's escort fleet would have been like winking at a blind person. After thinking through these problems, the disappointment in Su-Yi's heart faded a bit. He continued with his plan from before and warmly welcomed Russell's group. Russell was interested in the new flyer's escort fleet, so Su-Yi openly showed it to him. When Russell and his two assistants saw the giant magic ship that was completely made of steel, the shock on their faces definitely wasn't fake. However, no matter how shocked they were by the things in front of them, after the 3-day inspection ended, when they finally left the Principality of Constantine, Russell remained silent and didn't give any definite response. But Su-Yi was certain that after these days of inspection, he would have some thoughts in his heart. Compared to Russell and his two assistants who came and left in a hurry, leaving nothing behind and taking nothing away, Ambassador Hakkinen came to the new flyer again and obtained the same satisfying harvest as before. According to the private agreement that Su-Yi had with him, the new flyer sold him various household magic machines worth 300,000 gold coins at a price that was 10% lower than the market price. According to Su-Yi's understanding, these household magic machines were currently sold in the Kanla Empire's capital, Wimbledon City. They were sold at double the price here and the supply couldn't meet the demand. Even if Ambassador Hakkinen was responsible for the transportation from the Principality of Constantine to Wimbledon City, as long as he sold these household magic machines in Wimbledon City, he would be able to earn a profit of at least 150,000 gold coins. Since he met Su-Yi last year, in less than a year, Ambassador Hakkinen had earned over 400,000 gold coins from his cooperation with the new flyer. Before this, no matter how greedy he was in the Kanla Empire and the Kingdom of Ruhr, he could only earn several tens of thousands of gold coins a year. Cooperating with the new flyer gave him 10 times the profit from before. It was no wonder he happily threw away the conflict he had with Su-Yi when they first met. He treated Su-Yi as his best partner and even listened to Su-Yi's words. He believed that Su-Yi's suggestions would bring him a large profit. However, this time, the matter that Su-Yi had talked to him in private before he left made his eyes pop out in shock. "You want me to invest in roads in the Empire?" Ambassador Hakkinen looked at Su-Yi with a look of disbelief. "I say, Chairman Su, are you joking?" "No, I'm not joking at all." Su-Yi shook his head. "You're not joking?" No. "I still think you're joking. You should be clear on how much it costs to build a road. I don't have that much money. Then again, there are no benefits to me at all." Ambassador Hakkinen forcefully shook his head. Su-Yi waved his hand with a smile. "You're mistaken, I'm not asking you to pay for this road. The money needed for this road will all come from our new flyer." Ambassador Hakkinen looked at Su-Yi with a confused look. "Chairman Su, why do you want to do this? Your new flyer is paying to build a road in our Kanla Empire. What benefits do you have?" "Of course there are benefits, but I can't see it right now," Su-Yi said with a smile. But for Ambassador Hakkinen, there are clear benefits. Ambassador Hakkinen was even more confused. "What benefits do I have? Please look at the map." Su-Yi turned to the map hanging on the wall and reached out to draw a line from the Principality of Constantine to the Kanla Empire. "Ambassador Hakkinen, let me ask you a question. To transport the household magic machines you ordered from here to Wimbledon City, how much would it cost to transport them? That is hard to say. Ambassador Hakkinen shook his head. But if we calculate it based on the transport capacity of a large transport magic car, it would cost around 30 gold coins. 30 gold coins? Then have you calculated where these 30 gold coins are mainly spent? Sui asked. Ambassador Hakkinen knit his brows. After thinking for a bit, he looked at the map Sui was pointing at and gave a bitter laugh. Chairman Su, I understand what you mean. Of the 30 gold coins, at least half of it is spent on the road between Arcane Empire and Wimbledon City. Sui nodded, thinking that Ambassador Hakkinen wasn't completely stupid. From here to the border between the Norton Duchy and the Canla Empire, the total distance is close to 1,500 kilometers, but from the border to Wimbledon City, the total distance is less than 500 kilometers. There is such a difference in mileage, but the transport cost is the same. Ambassador Hakkinen, you should know why there is such a difference, right? Ambassador Hakkinen nodded with a bitter smile. Of course I know. There is no other reason, it's just because the roads in our Canla Empire are too bad. Those *T muddy roads were usually passable, but when it rained they simply couldn't be walked. 500 kilometers only takes half a day to travel on the roads here, but in the Empire it would take at least 2 days. Seeing Ambassador Hakkinen's resentful appearance, Sui revealed a faint smile, thinking that it's good that you understand. So the road I'm planning is to connect to Wimbledon City from this border. If this road is built, when we transport goods from here to Wimbledon City, it will save a large amount of time and transportation costs. Ambassador Hakkinen, do you think this isn't beneficial to you? Ambassador Hakkinen looked at the road Sui pointed out in the Canla Empire several times before slowly nodding. If there is this road, it would be much more convenient. But Chairman Su, if this road is built, it will take close to 500 kilometers. Your new flyer will have to invest at least 1,000,000 gold coins, right? Money isn't a problem. Sui shook his head with a faint smile. The main problem is how to build this road. Ambassador Hakkinen, there are many restrictions on our company in the Canla Empire, so we can't build this road. So whether this road can be built successfully, we have to rely on you. If you're willing, you just need to obtain permission to build this road. As for the other aspects, whether it is money, manpower, or preparations, you don't need to care about them. What do you think? Ambassador Hakkinen was a bit hesitant, but if I suddenly say that I want to build this road, there will be many people who will doubt me. Sui revealed a smile and raised a finger to Ambassador Hakkinen. If this matter is successful, I will personally sponsor you with 100,000 gold coins as thanks for your selfless help. 100,000 gold coins? Ambassador Hakkinen swallowed a mouthful of saliva before giving a strong nod. All right, deal. Chapter 728. It was another year of spring and the flowers bloomed. In April of each year, Banta City's bicycle race would be held, so Banta City would become very lively. Because of the success of the Shinfei bicycle race last year, when people were paying attention to the Banta City bicycle race, there were more and more people who were paying attention to the Shinfei bicycle race that followed. Last year, because it was the first year of the competition, and only a few companies participated in the competition, it didn't attract much attention. But at the end of last year, the final race of the Shinfei bicycle race came to an end. After the final champion was decided and it was announced that the champion would receive a high prize of 84,000 gold coins, this race immediately attracted a lot of attention. Everyone thought that the highest prize of 100,000 gold coins was just a slogan, so not many people really believed it. But in front of countless people, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce personally gave the Golden Chimera Chamber of Commerce's gold notes to the champion racer for the 84,000 gold coins, creating a stir in this race. So when the second Shinfei bicycle race began, it attracted the attention of countless people. It even attracted more attention than the Banta City bicycle race. Of course, the Banta City bicycle race wasn't ignored because the top 3 winners of the Banta City bicycle race last year were recruited by the 3 companies that participated in the Xinfei bicycle race, becoming professional riders. Just last year, they received a shocking 2,000 gold coins as a base salary. If someone won the Banta City bicycle race this year, they would receive the attention of those companies and be recruited into the professional cycling team. So whether it was for the slogan participation first or for the dream of becoming a professional rider, the number of people participating in this year's Banta City bicycle race reached a new high, reaching a shocking 96,000 people. It had to be known, because of the various factories, there were many people who came from far away to work, but the total population of Banta City was only over 300,000. 96,000 people. In other places in the Lampari Kingdom, this was a huge population that only the top few cities could reach. Because the number of people far exceeded their estimates, the Banta City bicycle race that usually ended in a single day was split into 2 days. The competitors were split into 2 groups, and the final results were calculated based on the time they finished. It was the first time in the history of signs that so many people could participate in a single event. In fact, it was extremely rare in the history of signs. So, for the Banta City bicycle race each year, whether it was Banta City or even the entire Lampari Kingdom placed great importance on it. Other than avoiding accidents from having too many participants, it was also because this competition could better display the image of Banta City and the Lampari Kingdom to the outside world. Since several years ago, there were people from other countries who came from far away to participate in this race. When the new flyer announced that the Xinfei bicycle race didn't have a limit on the nationality of the competitors, there were countless times more foreigners who came to participate in the Banta City bicycle race this year. Other than the competitors from the surrounding countries of the Lampari Kingdom, there were even several competitors from the Kanla Empire mixed in. Chairman Su, were these 3 people arranged by you? Count Will looked over the 3 Kanla Empire competitors who were being interviewed by the Banta Times reporters before turning to ask Su Yi beside him. No, they are completely interested in this race. It isn't related to me. Su Yi shook his head in denial. Is that so? But I can see that the 3 of them are riding your new flyer's newest swordfish bicycle. Your new flyer only limited the first batch to 5,000 of these bicycles, so you can't buy them in Banta City even if you want to. Could it be that you want to tell me that these 3 foreigners can casually buy them? Count Will clearly didn't believe him. Perhaps they have their own channels. That isn't strange, right? Su Yi gave a shrug, replying in an uncaring manner. Count Will narrowed his eyes to look at Su Yi. Seeing that he wasn't prepared to explain, he shook his head and didn't ask anything else. All right, let's not care about these 3 for now. But Chairman Su, as for the matter of the magic sedan race, shouldn't you explain a bit? Sir Count Will, is there something you don't understand? Su Yi asked back. Something you don't understand? Count Will sneered. Count Will gave a laugh. There are too many things I don't understand. Chairman Su, you told me before that this magic sedan race was a competition that you could freely participate in based on the Banta City bicycle race, so why are you limiting the participants now? Do you know that there are many young nobles in Banta City who are preparing to participate in this race, but now they are all stopped by a single sentence from you? Do you know how many times they have protested to me over the past few days? Su Yi laughed. I thank them for their love for this race, but it's a pity that there are some restrictions in this race, otherwise it'll cause a lot of trouble. Count Will slightly knit his brows. What? Chairman Su, you're still not planning on explaining? I am Banta City's city lord, and since this race is being held in Banta City, I have to ensure that it is under my control. Do you understand? I understand. Su Yi nodded, but his expression didn't relax at all. But Sir Count Will, this matter. It's not something you care about for now because Her Majesty already knows about this and has approved of my actions. I think that you should receive Her Majesty's orders soon. Count Will looked at Sui with knit brows. There was a bit of doubt in his eyes and a bit of shock in his heart. He was very confused as to why an amateur magic sedan race organized by the new flyer would attract Her Majesty's attention. What shocked him was that this matter had already received Her Majesty's approval, but he still hadn't received any orders. He thought that he was one of Her Majesty's closest confidants, but when it came to this matter that was closely related to Banta City, he didn't know as much as Sui. It could be seen that the close relationship between Her Majesty and Sui far surpassed everyone's imagination. Thinking of the rumors that had spread in the Lampari kingdom, Count Will looked at Sui with a complicated gaze. Sui didn't notice Count Will's expression. When Count Will asked about the magic sedan race, he also felt a bit strange, because this race had a representative sent by His Highness Frank. A month ago, when Baron Belil came to the Principality of Constantine to tell Sui that His Highness Frank wanted to personally participate in the magic sedan race in Banta City, Sui was so surprised that he almost bit off his tongue. When he had secretly entered the Canla Empire through Baron Belil's relationship and met with His Highness Frank in his manor, he had only met his housekeeper. Sui fully understood His Highness Frank's cold attitude and felt that it would be hard for him to enter the Canla Empire through his relationship with His Highness Frank. But he never thought that in just a few months, His Highness Frank's attitude would change. He didn't even care about the taboo and wanted to come all the way here to participate in the magic sedan race. Sui was incomparably shocked by this idea. He was the Canla Empire's third prince. He was an important person in the signs. Coming all the way to the Lampari kingdom that was over 1,000 kilometers away to participate in this race, not mentioning the possibility of being assassinated, just being injured in the race was a serious consequence that Sui and the entire new flyer couldn't take. So after contacting His Highness Frank through Baron Belil, Sui firmly dissuaded him from this idea. But since His Highness Frank was very interested in the real magic sedan race, or more accurately, he was very interested in racing without any scruples, Sui discussed it with His Highness Frank and finally agreed for him to send a representative. Even if it was just His Highness Frank's representative, for Sui, this was still a very important matter. So he contacted Seveni without any hesitation and reported this matter to her, obtaining Seveni's full support. No matter what His Highness Frank wanted to do, he had to ensure that the representative he sent could smoothly participate in the race and safely finish the race until they left. Otherwise, if something happened to them in Banta City, it was fine if His Highness Frank didn't pursue it, but if he did, it would be a serious diplomatic matter. Even if the Lampari kingdom was much stronger compared to before, it was impossible for them to face the wrath of a giant like the Canla Empire. But what surprised Sui was that Seveni didn't inform Count Levi ahead of time to have him cooperate with her. Just like Count Levi said, since this race was being held in Banta City, it was impossible to avoid him as the Lord City Lord. If Seveni could have Count Levi cooperate with her, Sui would be more confident in smoothly taking care of this matter. Sui and Count Levi had doubts at the same time. For a while, no one spoke as the two fell into silence. At this time, there was a voice that came from behind them that broke the silence. Chapter 729. Hey, Lord City Lord, Chairman Su, what are you talking about? Sui turned to look and found that it was Baron Belil. He immediately apologized to Count Will and pulled Baron Belil to the side as he asked in a low voice, "Weren't you going to greet the representative sent by His Highness Frank? Why are you here now? Where are they now?" Baron Belil looked around before coming closer to Sui and saying in a low voice, "I came looking for you because of them. The representative sent by His Highness Frank is here, and they want to meet you before the race. I can see that they seem to have something to discuss with you. Sui nodded, not being surprised at all. If His Highness Frank really sent a representative to participate in this race, it would be strange. Now that he heard Baron Belil's words, he was much more assured. Sui turned to look at the lively Banta City bicycle race and replied, "All right, I'll head over after the opening ceremony. Have them wait a bit. Greet them in my name first. I'll come find you in around 2 hours." "I'm afraid that won't do." Baron Belil shook his head with a troubled expression. Baron Belil revealed a troubled expression. "Chairman Su, the representative sent by His Highness wants you to meet them immediately. If you're late, I'm afraid." Sui was a bit surprised before his face sunk and he gave a cold snort. "What? They can't even wait for 2 hours?" Baron Belil's expression was very awkward. "Chairman Su. You know. They are representing His Highness Frank Ku. They have a bit of respect for their status." "Respect for their status?" Sui looked over Baron Belil with a cold smile, making him feel very uncomfortable. "Chairman Su, you mustn't take this to heart. I'll say something you don't like to hear, but if you want to cooperate with His Highness Frank, you really have to look at their faces. So, you shouldn't care that much, right? You are right, aren't you?" Seeing Baron Belil's bitter smile, Sui knit his brows. After being silent for a bit, he didn't move as he shook his head and said, "No, I always attend the opening ceremony of the Banta City bicycle race each year, and this year won't be an exception. I'll have to trouble you to tell the representative sent by Prince Frank that I have something important to do right now. Please ask them to wait patiently for a period of time. I'll settle the matter here as soon as possible and then meet them." "But, no buts." Sui waved his hand and interrupted Baron Belil. "This is my decision. Tell them for me." Baron Belil opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but seeing Sui's serious expression, he swallowed the words at the tip of his tongue and helplessly said, "All right, I'll go entertain them first. Chairman Su, you have to come quickly." Seeing Baron Belil leave in a hurry, Sui slightly knit his brows. When he sneaked into the Canla Empire with Baron Belil to see Prince Frank, but he only met his housekeeper, Sui had already had a deep impression of Prince Frank's arrogance. Now that Prince Frank had taken the initiative to send a representative to participate in the competition, it was obvious that he had taken the initiative to cooperate. However, his representatives were still acting in such a manner, which really made him feel very unhappy. What did Belil say to make you this unhappy?" Count Levi saw that Sui was still knitting his brows and looking dissatisfied, so he couldn't help asking this in a curious voice. "It's nothing." Sui shook his head and threw away the dissatisfaction brought by Prince Frank's representative. After thinking for a bit, he continued, "Sir Count, before the opening ceremony begins, let's discuss something else first. You should know about the magic illusion projector that our company released 2 months ago, right?" I do. What about it?" "As for this magic illusion projector, our company hopes to set up 5 of them in different places in Banta City. Other than playing the new Moon Chamber of Commerce's new film, there will also be some advertisements." The morning sun rose into the sky and the opening ceremony of the Banta City bicycle race began at 9. With the experience of holding events in the past few years, the opening ceremony went on in an orderly manner. But because there were too many participants this year, the opening ceremony was a bit longer. When it was all over, it was already close to 10. It was a good thing that Count Levi and Sui cancelled 2 small segments at the last minute, which allowed them to announce the start of the race at 10. After watching the first day's participants charge out of the starting line, Sui looked at the time and found that it was close to 10, so he immediately bid farewell to Count Levi. Count Levi was a bit surprised. "Chairman Su, you're not staying for lunch? There are many people who are looking forward to having lunch with you." Sui revealed an apologetic smile. "I'm afraid I can't today. Baron Belil found me just now because he had something urgent for me to take care of. Seeing that Count Levi was still a bit doubtful, Sui gave a cough and lowered his voice. It's related to the matter we discussed before. Count Levi gave an O sound. All right, you can go, I'll explain it to them. Many thanks, Sir Count Levi. Sui nodded before turning to leave. Seeing Sui quickly walk off the stage and get into his personal magic sedan, Count Levi knit his brows and revealed a doubtful look. Just what was it that Sui would go around the Lord City Lord and directly contact Her Majesty? When Count Levi was doubtful, there were quick footsteps that came from behind him. One of Count Levi's confidants in the City Lord Manor quickly came over. Sir Count Levi, a secret letter from Her Majesty. It really came at the right time. Count Levi raised a brow. He took the letter from his confidant and went to a secluded corner. After looking over the letter, he was surprised. This Chairman Su, his skills really aren't small. Sui drove the pure white magic sedan to Baron Belil's private manor outside Banta City, not meeting any obstacles along the way. After getting out of the car, Sui looked at the time and found that it wasn't even 11 yet, so he gave a satisfied nod. Even if he wasn't satisfied with the attitude of the representative sent by His Highness Frank, he attached great importance to the cooperation with the Kanla Empire. He hoped that he could enter the Kanla Empire's market through His Highness Frank, so he attached great importance to his relationship with His Highness Frank. He could stick to his principles and attend the opening ceremony, but if the conditions allowed it, he hoped that he could have a good relationship with His Highness Frank's representative. There was still an hour before lunch, so he could use this time to have a good discussion with His Highness Frank's representative. Chairman Su, you're here. Baron Belil's housekeeper Kigatz came out of the manor to welcome him. After seeing Sui, he immediately led him into the manor with a smile. The Lord Baron and the guests are waiting for you in the reception hall, please come with me. Sui nodded and followed Kigatz into the manor. After passing through a small garden, the largest reception hall of the manor was in front of them. Before he reached the gate, he heard a slightly shrill voice coming from inside. Hey, Baron Belil, is Chairman Su coming or not? If he really doesn't plan on coming, then we might as well leave now. Baron Belil's voice sounded. Please don't. Manager Mancini, please calm down. Since Chairman Su said that he will come, then he will definitely come. He attaches great importance to your arrival and has been preparing for it since a month ago. How could he not come to see you? Please wait a bit longer, I think he will be here soon. Soon? You've already said that many times. The sharp voice was filled with mockery. This Chairman Su actually dares to neglect us like this. This is simply an insult to us. Baron Belil, we're here representing His Highness the Prince. Neglecting us is the same as neglecting His Highness the Prince. He's got guts. Sui, who was about to reach the entrance of the reception hall, originally had a deep frown, but after hearing this, he couldn't help but laugh involuntarily. This fellow's words were exactly the same as what Prince Frank's butler Como had said before. Could it be that Prince Frank's subordinates all like to use this kind of tone to intimidate others? Baron Belil's bitter laughter came from the reception hall. No. Manager Mancini, please don't misunderstand. Chairman Su definitely doesn't have the slightest intention of neglecting you. He even specially asked me to take good care of you, afraid that you'll wait too long. Right now, he really has something important to attend to, but I believe that he'll come to see you soon. Please wait a bit. Wait a bit. Something important? What could be more important than us? Manager Mancini was still dissatisfied with Baron Belil's answer and coldly snorted. Baron Belil, don't blame us for not giving you face. We'll give Chairman Su another half an hour. If he doesn't appear before lunch, then we'll turn around and leave. As for how we'll report this to His Highness, you should be able to imagine. Alright, alright, alright. I'll immediately send someone to hurry Chairman Su and have him hurry. A bright voice suddenly sounded from the entrance of the reception hall, interrupting Baron Belil's words. There's no need to rush me, Belil. I'm already here. Baron Belil turned to look at the entrance in shock. When he saw Su Yi's figure, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. Everyone else in the hall also turned their gazes to Su Yi. Among them, there was a white-faced man with a face full of wrinkles sitting across from Baron Belil. His gaze was the sharpest. He coldly looked at Su Yi for a while before asking in a sharp voice, "You're Su Yi?" Chapter 730. Hearing this voice that was as sharp as a duck's, Su Yi's eyes couldn't help looking at his smooth face. Not to mention a single strand of beard, there wasn't even a single strand of hair on his face. Then there was a name that he had almost forgotten that flashed in his mind. Eunuch. That's right, this old man, it was very likely that he was a rarely seen eunuch in the signs. Eunuchs were creatures that were rarely seen in the signs. Currently, they only existed in the Kanla Empire's royal palace, which was similar to the eunuchs of ancient China's royal palace on Earth. Other than this, even the Malur Empire's royal palace didn't have this kind of creature. As for the royal palaces of small countries like the Lampari Kingdom and the Kingdom of Ruhr, they wouldn't have this kind of creature at all. When Lampuri XIII and King Eric were still alive, there were quite a few men in the Lampari Kingdom's royal palace, but there weren't any eunuchs. After Seveni took the throne, she changed all the servants in the royal palace to maids, so it was even more impossible for there to be eunuchs. So Su Yi had transmigrated to this world for 8 years now, but he had never seen a eunuch before. He had only heard of them once in a book about the customs of the signs. Now that he had seen a eunuch appear in front of him, Su Yi's expression couldn't help becoming a bit strange. Even though it was just a flash of a strange expression, the old eunuch was still keenly aware of it. His expression wasn't that good to begin with, but it became even uglier. "Hey, I'm asking you, are you Su Yi?" The old eunuch that Baron Belil called Manager Mancini raised his voice to ask this. Su Yi immediately looked away and gave Manager Mancini a bow before replying with a faint smile, "Yes, I am the new Flyers chairman, Su Yi. May I ask if you are Lord Mancini, Prince Frank's chief of internal affairs?" Seeing Su Yi's respectful attitude, Manager Mancini's expression relaxed a bit. He gave a slight nod and said with a snort, "That's right, I am. Chairman Su, we have come to see you on the orders of His Highness. I presume you already know why we are here, right?" Su Yi smiled faintly, his gaze sweeping over the 5 sturdy-looking young men standing behind Manager Mancini. "These must be the racers sent by His Highness to participate in the competition, right?" "No, they are all my bodyguard. He is the real racer participating in this competition." Manager Mancini shook his head, but pointed his finger behind the 5 muscular men. Su Yi looked over in surprise and saw the 5 strong men move aside, revealing a skinny young boy hiding behind them. This boy didn't look to be more than 20 years old. In reality, he wasn't all that skinny, but compared to the 5 strong men, he appeared a bit skinnier. When he saw Su Yi look over, he also raised his head and looked over. His expression was filled with curiosity and provocation. Su Yi couldn't help but smile. He thought to himself that this kind of young man could be seen everywhere. He just didn't know where Prince Frank had found him. Since His Highness has carefully selected him, then his driving skills must be extremely outstanding. I just don't know, has he taken the driver's test? Su Yi swept his gaze over the boy and asked a question that stunned everyone. Everyone looked at each other. Only Baron Belial had a strange expression on his face. Manager Mancini stared blankly and couldn't help but ask, "Driver's license? What's that?" Su Yi gave a rough explanation of the use of a driver's license, but was immediately met with a sneer from Manager Mancini. "We are people from the Kanla Empire. Do we need the recognition of your new flyer and the Lampari kingdom? His Highness admits that he can drive, so he can drive. Other than that, His Highness often drives magic sedans. Could it be that Chairman Su wants His Highness to take the driver's test as well? Su-yi gave a shrug, not planning on tangling with this question. Alright, but no matter what, I ask him to at least follow the rules of the road while he's here. Otherwise, if something happens, it will be very troublesome. Manager Mancini glared at him. What? Who dares to cause trouble for us? Seeing the looks of disdain on the faces of the young boy and the 5 guards, Su-yi completely understood the evaluation of the Kanla Empire that the people around him had given him. This large empire, other than the Mala Empire, when facing other countries, they would always be aloof. Su-yi didn't plan on pursuing this matter. Anyway, these people would only be here for a few days and they would go back after the competition. As long as they were a bit more careful, there shouldn't be any problems. After a pause, Su-yi began discussing the details of the competition with Manager Mancini. But when he was about to speak, Manager Mancini waved his hand to cut him off. You don't need to tell me about these small matters. I have something else to discuss with Chairman Su. After saying this, Manager Mancini looked at Baron Belil. Baron Belil immediately understood and stood up to greet Manager Mancini. He then looked at Su-yi before leaving the hall, while also calling out the 2 maids in charge of clothes. Afterwards, the 5 guards and the young boy left the hall together, leaving only Su-yi and Manager Mancini inside. The room sank into silence for a moment. Su-yi glanced at Manager Mancini, took a sip of tea, and calmly said, "Sir Manager, please speak." Manager Mancini didn't immediately open his mouth. Instead, he looked Su-yi up and down a few times, as if he wanted to see through him from head to toe. Su-yi, on the other hand, had a calm and unruffled expression as he sat there casually with a slight smile on his face. He maintained a calm expression as he met Manager Mancini's gaze. After a while, Manager Mancini withdrew his scrutinizing gaze and nodded, but then snorted lightly. It was unknown what kind of evaluation he had of Su-yi's performance. Cough. Chairman Su, when you met with Como last time, you proposed to invest in a magic machine factory in the Empire, right? That's right, Sir Manager. Su-yi nodded with a light smile. At the time, I only had a rough idea of this proposal. After I came back, I thought it through carefully and summarized this proposal, creating a detailed proposal. As Su-yi spoke, he took out a document from his bag and handed it over to Manager Mancini. Please take a look, Sir Manager. This proposal is extremely detailed, and I believe that it will definitely satisfy His Highness. If His Highness agrees to this cooperation, I believe that His Highness will earn at least 1,000,000 gold coins every year. Manager Mancini glanced at the proposal in Su-yi's hand, but didn't reach out to take it. Instead, he waved his hand and said coldly, "There's no need to look at it. Chairman Su, it's impossible for His Highness to agree to this plan." Su-yi was startled and couldn't help but frown. Why? I believe that this proposal is extremely beneficial to His Highness, not to mention that you haven't looked at it yet, Sir Manager. I said there's no need to look at it, so there's no need to look at it. Manager Mancini snorted coldly. Chairman Su, I have to remind you that you still don't seem to understand your own status. Su-yi's frown deepened. Sir Manager, I don't understand what you mean. You don't understand? Baron Belil has always praised you as a smart person in front of me, but now it seems that you aren't that great. Manager Mancini shook his head. Chairman Su, could it be that you still don't understand? At the end of the day, you are nothing more than a small merchant from the Principality of Constantine, yet you keep saying that you want to cooperate with His Highness the Prince of the Kanla Empire. Don't you think that this is too funny? Su-yi looked at Manager Mancini's mocking expression, as well as the undisguised arrogance in his eyes. He gave a sigh in his heart before relaxing his brows and calming himself down. Then, Sir Manager, according to you— Oh no, according to His Highness' intentions, how should we cooperate? I'll remind you again, you aren't qualified to discuss cooperation with His Highness. You're just lucky that His Highness is a bit interested in your company's magic sedan, so he specially allowed you to give him some things in exchange for his trust in you. Do you understand? Sui honestly shook his head. Sorry, Sir Manager, I still don't understand. Manager Mancini gave a sigh, looking like a child that couldn't be taught. He shook his head and continued, All right, then I'll explain it to you more clearly. As long as you're obedient and make His Highness happy, if you and New Flyer want to do anything in Arcane Empire, His Highness will take care of His Highness, making it much more convenient. If His Highness is more satisfied in the future, you'll receive more care. Do you understand now? A strange smile appeared on Suyi's face as he gave a slight nod. Yes, I understand. Then, Sir Manager, how does His Highness want to cooperate with us? No, what does His Highness want us to do? Hearing the change in Suyi's tone, Manager Mancini gave a satisfied nod. He took out a thin document from his chest and threw it to Sui. This is the contract I made according to His Highness' intentions. Take a look and sign it. Sui took it and opened it, finding that it really was a contract. The final signature was New Flyer and the other side was a company that Sui had never heard of before. No need to be surprised, that is a company that belongs to His Highness, you know. Manager Mancini explained. Sui nodded and began looking over the contents of the contract. After looking at it for less than half a minute, Suyi's lips couldn't help curling into a cold smile. Hey, this His Highness Frank. He really has such a high attitude and such a big appetite. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.